Supervisors meeting to order 7:03. In attendance are Supervisors Dean, Mayor Torres. Also in attendance are Solicitor Mark Thompson, Harbor and Historical Chairman Paul Legassi, Township Manager John McGraw, Assistant Township Manager Jeff Eastburn, and Secretary Sharon Norris. And there are 20 members of the public. We also have Jeff Fogel, excuse me, our zoning officer, wasn't on the list, sorry, Jeff. Jeff is our zoning officer and building inspector. We also have 3 members of PennDOT staff from King of Prussia. Mr. Bruce Massey, the project manager for the crews that we'll talk about. His right-hand engineer, Mr. Elwood Kimmel. And one other representative,
Tom Lindsay.
thank you. We also have a representative of the state police here, so if we have questions for the state police, I'll find a spot in the agenda where we can ask some questions if we need to. We also have one New London Township official here, Mr. Jerry Porter, one of the supervisors from New London. We're very well acquainted, we're on lots of committees together. Okay, so we all rise for the pledge of allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're at the public comment section. The public comment, is there anything related to items on tonight's agenda? The last public comment is for items not on tonight's agenda. It's also important you state your name clearly for the tape so the comments can be reflected accurately. Please state whether you're a township resident or taxpayer. And I'll modify this a bit because typically we get into an issue, the supervisors will discuss it first, and then we'll take comments during the issue. So you don't necessarily have to make comments right now. You can make it in the context of the discussion. The only thing I'd ask is if we have a fair number of people here, if you want to express an opinion that's already been expressed, you can just say that I agree with such and such, or modify it to your extent. But we try not to be repetitive in some of the comments. Okay. Let's see. Don, you want to start this?
Sure. So we'll move on to the motion for the meeting minutes, right? And then we'll do the public comments as we do the agenda.
Yeah, we'll pick up public comments in the context of the issue.
So I make a motion to approve July 17, 2019, version 2 meeting minutes as presented by the Township Secretary. A second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, David. Any discussion? Okay, good. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. And the motion carries 4-0.
Okay, I make a motion the Board of Supervisors adopt Resolution 2019-14 regarding the disposition of records for the Board of Supervisors meeting July 17, 2019. Seconded by Stephan. Just for the public's information, this motion allows us to erase the original audio tape because it's been transcribed in the minutes. But the videotapes are maintained for a long time. Once get erased after they've been transcribed in the minutes. So, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries 4-0.
I make a motion that the board approve the July Treasurer's Report, which includes the following disbursements. General fund with disbursements and transfers of $99,447.75. The Park and Rec fund with disbursements of $12,628.63. The Open Space fund with disbursements of $50,716.17. The Capital Reserve fund with disbursements of $835 even. The Highway Aid fund with disbursements of $140,094.61. Emergency Services Fund with disbursements of $557, and the Fire Hydrant Fund with disbursements of $580.80, leaving a balance in all funds totaling $1,400,000. $129,972.22. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by John. Any discussion?
The only thing I'd say is we got some big numbers in here, and that's because our road program is in full boom right now. We're fixing roads, so we're spending lots of money on asphalt and labor and equipment, so that's why the numbers are so high.
Any further discussion? Are we finished?
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Anyone? Stephanie?
That's fine.
In that case, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries 4-0.
We got our zoning officer's report for July. There were 8 permits issued, 31 building inspections. Fees collected were $3,815.99. And then miscellaneous fees collected $1,400 even, and 3 ongoing issues that are always ongoing. 1661 New London, 3327 Appleton, and then 1620 New London. Is any major updates, or maybe especially 1620? No?
Jeff, can you address it?
Any different updates, or anything especially with maybe 1620 New London since?
1620 New London Road, is now in compliance. They removed all the trucks and all the landscaping equipment that had been removed from the property, all the storage material and debris. And also, they have sent a letter into the township that they won't be using the property for residential use. And if they decide to change anything, they would come in for further inspection. So at this point, I will be withdrawing, but still, I think that that's required.
Jeff, I just want to thank you for handling that so well. It's been going on for a little while, but just handled well, and I hope all parties are satisfied, but I'm definitely satisfied with the good work you did, so thank you.
Thank you.
That couldn't have had a better outcome.
Yeah.
What we got there, so. Okay, just one other comment about, we collect building fees and miscellaneous fees. They're not profit for the township. They're really essentially covering the cost of our inspector and the administration. We don't quite cover it. So we're not making money out of fees, we just cover expenses. Let's see, that's the next one here.
So the PC didn't have any business before they said they didn't leave office, but you always have some interesting words for us.
Yes, I do.
So what's going on, Paul?
We did not meet, the Harbor and the local commission did not meet, but I would like to bring to everyone's attention the fact that on September 12th, I'm just double checking this, so it's not at 7 p.m. in New London at the New London Township office. There will be a jointly sponsored talk by the New London Area Historical Society and Franklin Township Historical Commission. In this instance, the speaker will be Freddie Cody, who is Cohen representing 23 vineyards. And the title of the talk is Setbacks and Successes, a History of Vines and Wines on the East Coast.
Any samples?
I don't believe so. We haven't arranged, but.
Okay, all right.
Great. We were talking about grapes, right?
Okay. Okay, let's see, the first order of business will be the PennDOT presentation presented by Bruce Massey and Elwood County. And we'll let them make their presentation, and we'll make comments at a particular time, and then we'll open it up for comments. I know a lot of people are here for that particular issue, so when we're finished with that issue and you don't have an interest in the subsequent one, you won't hurt my feelings if you leave early.
But you're welcome to stay.
You're welcome to stay. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, John. Thank you. Thanks, everybody, for coming out tonight. My name is Bruce Massey. I represent PennDOT, District 6, and we're here kind of as a follow-up to a few years ago, in the church up the road, we had a public meeting concerning the proposed safety improvements along 896 in New London Township, Franklin Township, and London Britain Township. At that public meeting, we presented a series of treatments, which we will also re-discuss or re-present tonight. There were a few outstanding issues. Specifically, the intersection of Appleton and 896 had not really been fully developed or to a point where there was agreement between PennDOT and Township, and we were also looking for some feedback from the community at the time. Further, the final solution for 896 and 841 was also not fully developed and agreed to. We've proceeded, it's taken a couple years, but we've proceeded to come to what we think is a mutually agreed upon solution. There were some comments also at the meeting with regard to the two crest curves and the sag curve, in layman's term, the two humps in the valley at Scotts Glen Road. That has also been addressed. So I'm going to invite Elton Kimmel from KCI, who is the design consultant for this project, to kind of walk us through all the aspects of the project and specifically talk to Appleton and 896, 896 and 841, and Scotts Glen. Elton?
All right. Like Bruce said, I'm just going to walk everyone through the project, starting at the south end and working all the way to the north. The south, if you look at the map there, is all the way to the left. You see the little red dot. That's Chambers Rock Road right there. The project just starts a little bit south of there. To start off, I'll talk corridor wide first, just real quick. The entire corridor is going to be overlaid. The new pavement surface, new delineators, level surface, pavement markings, and signing all the way from end to end, 5 miles from Chambers Rock over here on the left, all the way up to S Mill Road, actually up to Collins Lane, all the way up here on the right. So that's how we sort of look corridor wide first, and we wanted to address some of the issues along there. There's some stretches of the road where there's not as many issues as others. So we tried to do the overlay, some safety improvements on those, keep it fairly simple, minimize right-of-way fate. But then there are other areas, about 5 or 6 spots, where there's more significant accident trends, and we want to address those with more significant improvements. So I'll walk through those areas right now. The first one is at Chambers Rock Road. They were proposing a left turn lane, southbound 896 with a left turn lane in at that intersection. Just allow the through cars to get by the left turns. It reduces rear end accidents, and it'll make the intersection more efficient as well. Another improvement then, moving to the north here, is at London Track and Strippersville Road, that intersection. It's tough to see there. You guys probably know that when we pull out. The houses are real close to the road. There's a bank, the house is at the top. So what we were able to do is we just slid the road just a little bit, let's shoot from the center line of the road, basically to the east, to the bottom here of the sheet. It actually improves the sight distance a good bit at that intersection. So we're going to, improve that intersection, improve that sight distance there to make it better than what it currently is. So that's one of the key improvements. Then moving on to the north, stretching here where it's, just overlay, paved markings, rumble strips, simple, cost-effective safety treatments. Moving on up, we get up to overlay all the way up to Good Hope Road is the next sort of significant improvement. And there again, there's a crest curve just to the south here of Good Hope Road, and when you pull out of Good Hope, sort of blocks your sight distance. So we're going to lower that crest curve down, make it a little bit easier to pull out there. We're also going to realign that intersection a little bit, try to tee it up so that you can pull up to the intersection and it's easy to look left or right either way. Continuing on up to the north further, then skip over here to the second sheet. Here's the intersection of Appleton Road and 896. And as Bruce says, there was a lot of discussion about that at the first public meeting. And we've looked at a lot of different things, and we feel the best solution is to implement an all-the-way stop at this intersection. We're going to realign this portion of the south leg of 896, sort of turn that and tee it into Appleton Road and the north leg of 896. Again, so cars can come up, pull, will be like a T intersection, and then they can look left or right all the cars will stop there, all directions will stop before they're going through the intersection. So we feel it'll be, help slow traffic down, in the village area here. Also, there's a safety problem here. There's, accident history, and we feel it'll go a long way to, improve safety, slowing people down through Kemble Hill. Moving on to the north end, the other intersection that, we discussed quite a bit at the first public meeting was 841 and 896. And we talked about many different solutions there. We talked about, left turn lanes, traffic signals, trying to find the best solution. And right now, we're recommending a roundabout there. There's a lot of, I don't know if you've been around Pennsylvania, it's becoming more and more popular. There's been a lot of studies about roundabouts and how there's great safety value in a roundabout. It slows people down, but it doesn't completely stop them. We think it'll be a nice safety improvement there, better than the current solution or the current four-way stop or implementing traffic signal. The four-way stop that there is now is just, on a temporary board. It's a temporary solution at that intersection. So now we're looking for the permanent solution there. Now we're thinking a roundabout would be nice. It's also a nice traffic calming mechanism too. As cars come through there, it forces them to slow down, as they go around roundabout and proceed on into Kemblesville. Another, right here at Ben Road, then another sort of feature was that crest curve just north of that intersection, and that was really creating a lot of problems down here. So we lowered that crest curve, and we're going to remove the existing stop sign there at Ben Road right now. It's not the best condition when you stop one direction of traffic, to leave the other direction of traffic go. It's confusing to people. People aren't going to think, or they're going to make that left turn, not realizing the person coming down might not stop there or run that stop sign because it's uninspected. So we think by lowering that crest curve, we can remove that stop sign, to see the roundabout, slow them down through the roundabout as they proceed through the corridor. Moving on to the north end is Scotts Glen Road is here, the Peace Center. And there's a lot of feedback at the public meeting about Scotts Glen Road, trying to improve the sight distance there, pulling out. There's two crest curves, north and south, Scotts Glen, so we're going to lower those crest curves and raise that Scotts Glen intersection up a little bit, just to try to improve the sight distance there for cars pulling in and out. Moving on to the north, then is the curve just north of here. There was a bit of an accident trend at that intersection, or at that curve. It's sort of a classic engineering thing. We have a horizontal curve with a vertical curve. At night, the roadway sort of disappears. You can no longer see the travel lane anymore. So we're going to flatten that crest curve through there. We're going to flatten the horizontal curve as well, improve the sight distance so you can see adequately along the roadway in that area. Then moving on to the north, once you get up, I think the curve I was talking about was up here. I'm sorry, I messed up. This is down by the pizza shop in the north leg of that road.
That's where the pizza shop is.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that curve that we're improving is here actually. That's where the vertical curve behind is on. So we'll make that improvement there. Then moving on to the north is the Hessville Road intersection. We're going to put a left turn lane in there. Again, when you get the left turns out of the way, it reduces rear end accidents, allows through traffic to go through. But there's also a crest curve just south of here as well. We're going to lower that crest curve and improve that sight distance of the cars pulling out Hessville Road. There's a new leg in that intersection now, but went in there for housing development. So that's the major improvements along there. I don't think I touched quite on everything that's maybe on this map. But if there's any questions or comments, we can open it up at this point.
The roundabout that you're proposing at the corner of 896 and 841, you do realize that there's a heavy amount of truck traffic on 896. And in order to accommodate that at a roundabout, that would have to be pretty wide.
Yeah, as shown, as we have shown up there, it doesn't accommodate a W62 truck through that roundabout. There is, the one concern about this is the footprint of a roundabout. It is, a wider footprint. But when you look at it compared to, full traffic singular, it's not a whole lot different. It's a little bit wider, but I think the safety benefit is really significant for roundabout. Apparently, all the studies that have been done, indicates, you know, just a great safety benefit for roundabouts. It slows them down without stopping. And we feel that would be, you know, a nice solution. There's no maintenance cost for the roundabout working out of the traffic signal. So a lot of good things, and you're seeing more and more in Pennsylvania when the situation is.
No electricity.
Right, no,
And I think to clarify Elwood's point a little bit more, with regard to the layout of the roundabout, there'll be almost two areas to drive in. It'll be the clearly signed marked part where the vehicles will be going around. Then there'll be on the inside what's known as a truck apron. That would be used for the very large trucks that have a more difficult time navigating through. That's how we accommodate both. So it'll be what looks like the normal roadway that the cars will be using, and then there's not an oversized truck, but a larger truck that wouldn't necessarily, it would not necessarily be so easy for them to stay in that lane. They can go into that, it's a mountable curve, it's slightly higher, it's slightly raised curve. They'll go over that a bit and then clear the intersection. That's done very frequently in roundabouts.
We'll take public comments. The supervisor will finish our comments.
I had a couple questions on, first of all, timing of the project, since we talked about it last. Has that changed? And can you get an update? And second, one of the alternative routes at that time was, while this was under construction, was the Peskimo Bridge. What's the alternative route today?
do you want to handle the timing?
Yeah, why don't you tell me the route first?
Estill Road, we went back and forth a little bit on that. The last thing I heard was that structure on Estill Road was improved or maybe replaced. Would we use Estill
The
Road?
plan is next year to replace that wooden bridge with a prefabricated arch concrete bridge, which will have no weight limit. So that would eliminate the concern the township had back many years ago that we would direct all that diverted traffic over that bridge. We didn't think that would. But the bridge has been rated in poor condition for the last 6 or 7 years, so we've been kind of babying it along. But for next year, it's very likely we will replace that, so that detour should be allowable for you.
I mean, if something changes, we did have another detour route we were using at one point. We could use Estill Road if something changes down the road. We could easily change that route, almost construction. These final plans.
We've got a general agreement with the conservation group for some grant money, some significant grant money, which they're almost promised it to it, but you only get it when you get it, so we hope that that comes about next year.
With regard to the timing, we're in what is now called final design. It's the last phase of the design before the plans and the specifications go out for contractors for bidding and then ultimately for construction. So we are anticipating finishing that into next year, and then it would be probably, I'm guessing, the autumn of next year where this would actually go out to the contractors, which would probably cause construction not to start until spring of 2021. It is possible that'll speed up a little bit, but most projects never really speed up, they usually slow down. So I think commencement of construction in spring of 2021 is a fairly good guess.
Just kind of amplifying the question that David had made about the roundabout. I had asked the question back when you were here, back, I guess, earlier this year. And my question was the roundabout standard size, and was it compromised in any way to get it into space to manage vehicles? And the answer you said was not. You had designed it according to your standards, and that all vehicles could tolerate the vehicle transverse that thing without difficulty.
That's correct.
Okay, that's what we got in the last time. I don't know if you're in that meeting or not, David. I guess my comments on a roundabout, I think that's certainly a reasonable solution. My professional experience has spent a lot of time driving in the UK and New Zealand. Both of them have lots of roundabouts, and they work rather well. They eliminate the conflict. Traffic doesn't stop unless there's a conflict. The rules apply that the traffic in the roundabout has the right of way, and anybody entering has to either stop or blend into the traffic. And it works very well. I haven't seen anything. The thing that works well for a visitor over there is not knowing where you go. And I used to just keep going around the roundabout as many times as it took to read all the signs and get off the right one. So there is some advantage to that. I think the roundabout, just a little bit of history. I think when this intersection first became a major traffic issue, well, it's been there for a long time. It was a two-way stop with 841 stopping and through traffic on 896 going through. And there were a lot of accidents, serious accidents there. People really didn't see the stop sign. They went through the intersection, and there were significant conflicts. So the four-way stop that's in there right now was an interim solution to some final solution. The interim solution has worked incredibly well, although it's not ideal by any means. It essentially eliminated all the major issues. So now we're down to basically fender benders because everyone stops and there are just not any high-speed conflicts. But as PennDOT has told us, this thing is an interim solution and not something they can allow to be there permanently. And you guys are federally funded, and so you have to follow some federal guidelines and have relatively little flexibility in adjusting the design for that you might do on your own. Is that a fair assessment? I think that's an important point. I think the roundabout, there's one other issue that I want to bring up in this roundabout is that there's a property on the corner, the northeast corner.
Correct.
And that particular property is an old property, and it has two driveways. There's an entrance driveway down low, and then it has an exit driveway up high, both entering the main roadway of the bank. The exit driveway is very steep. In fact, if you got a trailer or you got a long truck, you go straight. So right now, it's just barely passing. So at that point, when you look at topography of the final road, you're going to lower the road there somewhere around 4 feet, 3.5 to 4 feet at that point. So that driveway is really unusable. And unfortunately, there isn't any room to slope it, to change the slope up into the property because it would take away the parking. So there needs to be some remedy that you come up with here. We have a suggestion that, and I've talked to the property owners and they're here this evening, to give them an alternate driveway and an alternate entrance off of 841. I'm not a traffic engineer, I don't design roads, but that could be a solution. So what I'm looking for from PennDOT is a commitment that you're going to produce a remedy that's reasonable.
Yes, as part and parcel of any of these projects, we need to make sure that we maintain access to any property. If we do not maintain the access to the property, it in reality becomes a total take, which we totally do not want to do with this property.
Okay.
So we will work with the property owner to come up with a solution, whether it's being able to work with the geometry of the existing driveway, which I concur with you will be challenging. If that is not possible, we can certainly consider having a driveway on 841 to have access to the property. That would be consistent with what has been done in other projects in other parts of the state.
We've talked about this before. I remember talking to Mr. Kimball many years ago about this. He made some hand sketches about it, so it's not a new concept. Just looking at reshaping the existing driveway, you have some significant obstructions going northbound with that blacksmith shop right there. So there's not a whole lot of room there to change the slope of that driveway. So anyway, so we get to the public comment section, and the property owners will have some comments for you. It sounds like you're willing and able to provide some reasonable remedy.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And I think one thing I would add is during the right-of-way acquisition process is when the property owner will get more contact with PennDOT as they're starting to work through the driveways and property, strip-tation needs and things like that. So there'll be more dialogue with property owners as the project progresses on a one-on-one basis, with and staff.
Just looking at the layout, their property would be the most impacted. The church would also, they don't really have anything there that would generate a major issue. And it doesn't look like you're getting into the properties on the west side there. So I think that's the key issue there. And I think the roundabout's a really decent solution to this. I think it's certainly better than a traffic signal with turning lanes. At least that's my opinion, and for the most part, the board agrees with that. So we'll see what the public has to say when we get their comments.
Is there a comparable roundabout size-wise close by that if we want to just look at it?
52 north, I guess you go 52 north out of Longwood there. Right as you come into Pocopson, there's a roundabout
That's a
there.
good question. I can't name one off the top of my head.
Much
You
closer.
can find one. I move around.
With the 52 roundabout, is that a single lane roundabout?
Yeah.
It's got, I think there are 4 roads in there. They come in all odd angles. That's the kind of beauty of the
If it's a
roundabout.
single lane roundabout, then yes, that will be what's proposed here. There are other larger roundabouts that are multiple lanes, that's not being proposed here.
On
I'm sure
270,
Go ahead.
on 273, much closer than New Zealand.
It's a long way.
And even closer than 52, you can go down Appleton Road, and at the intersection of Appleton and 273, there's another one. There's 2 roundabouts on 273. I believe they're both in Maryland.
Okay.
They're just across the line in Maryland, both of them. When you say roundabout, all I can picture in my mind is those 2 roundabouts. I have to believe that you're going to be dimensionally very close to them.
I would
Are
think,
you familiar
yes.
with them?
I would think, no, I'm not familiar with them, but if it crosses the state line, it comes out. But as John had mentioned, there are federal rules that we have to follow, all states do. A given state itself can tweak the rules, but it's tweaking of the rules. So I would imagine that the roundabouts you're describing will probably be extremely close to what we'd be
They can
proposing.
handle big trucks.
Yes.
Big trucks go through there, obviously they have to stop and then proceed through. And I've seen them go through it slowly
Mm-hmm.
and they make the round no problem. But it consumes a chunk of
Right.
of turf.
Right.
So, and there's no traffic light. I like them. I think they work well. I would much rather stop and proceed rather than have a red light and wait for a minute, with no cross traffic or other things like that. And I think it's a good idea, but just, my first comment, it's gonna take the chunk of turf.
If there isn't any conflict, then the traffic can enter the roundabout without stopping. Of course, they slow down to the appropriate speed, but
Yes,
you
the
not have to stop.
the geometry of the roundabout is set up that you can't just fly through those things. That won't work, you have to slow down.
George, what is the Appleton's islands?
Pardon?
Yeah.
We didn't get to that part yet.
Oh, okay, you did there.
They ended up there, so I thought we'd start back here. I guess the other issue we've got is the one at Scotts Glen, and that one, we're gonna do a fair amount of earthwork there to get rid of some of the undulations of the roadway that limit the visibility. That's a tough intersection to get out of, Scotts Glen, because of sight lines. So, but overall, this is a very ambitious project, so the amount of earthwork you're doing here, moving a lot of material there. Was anything else up north of that intersection? Of course, the stop sign at Denver will go away. We won't need that. The reason that would go away, you correctly, Bruce, is that when you take the hump out of the road, then as the driver approaches the intersection, he gets a normal, let's just call it a normalized view of the intersection. He sees it at the distance you would see most intersections and has time to react to any potential conflict. Exactly. With the hump right now, they come over the hill and they're too close to it to stop if they're going too fast. So
Which is why the stop sign southbound on Denver Road was put in place.
put in place to stop traffic so that you wouldn't come down that speed and then come over the
Exactly.
hill and see a conflict.
So coming over the hump, once you push the hump down,
Yeah.
Now you can see the traffic that's heading into the road.
And that's not minor earthwork, that's 4 feet lower at the deepest point, so. Board, have any more comments about that particular one? So you head down the road, you also get right to the, you'll probably come back to the minor ones, but the major one is the Kimballsville intersection.
Thank you so much for doing something.
Been problematic for a long, long time. Traffic, one of the major issues you have is northbound traffic coming to the intersection. The large trucks cannot stay in their lane. The really, courteous drivers, the truck drivers that know what's going on, almost stop to go on that turn, stay in the lane. My brother and I just came down there this evening, a large moving truck that went through the intersection. He wasn't going fast, but he was well over the line. Through that intersection. So there's a real issue there. There's a fair number of accidents. People who are not familiar, the local people do a whole lot better than people that aren't. We have a woman from New York there, Lindsay, she completely mistook the whole intersection and made a huge mistake here. So it's got some issues. So the remedy is limited because the intersection is surrounded by historic properties. There's just very little room to do anything there. Certainly a roundabout would be perfect, but that would be an ideal situation for a roundabout, an intersection like that. But there isn't any room to do it. You can't move those. Even the three-way stop, which would be proposed, just barely gets in there. I think it's a decent solution. I don't see anything wrong with it, but it just makes it worth a secret design. So, you can talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, we studied that intersection at great length. We looked at roundabout. We even considered traffic signal at one point. And it's just, what is the best solution there? And, like you said, that a sharp curve, I think, is the biggest problem. It's just so sharp and people go so fast through it, they're leaving their lane. So we're so constricted with the historic district and, property right next to the roadway. We're trying to find a solution that balances all of that. Balances the historic district versus slowing cars down, making the intersection safer. So we felt the all-way stop was the best way to go at this point. Try to convert it into the intersection. That slows everybody down, improves sight distance, make it easier for cars to traverse through there, make it clearer, less confusing for cars. There's a little bit of confusion there, when people have to turn left and yield, so we'll eliminate that as well. I think it should make a big safety improvement at that intersection.
Would the idea be with that eliminate the grassy knolls, for lack of a better word?
The median?
Yeah.
Yes.
And when you look at the map here, you have the dotted line. Does that mean you would have to, by right, take some land from people on the northeastern side and the southeastern side?
No, everything is within the existing payment at that intersection. I can take a closer look if you want.
Yeah, it's just,
Sure.
where the dotted lines are on both sides.
We're talking about
The black lines. Yeah.
Yeah, the dark ones are paved parking. The dash is an existing outside edge of pavement. So that's basically the exact, where it is paved, dash line.
I'm not finished. Okay, the other thing that the stop provides is an opportunity to put a crosswalk in. Because right now, you can't cross the highway very safely unless the traffic stops, so we would expect to have some kind of crossing mark there, stop sign. There's a study done back in 2009 by the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission called Taming the Traffic. I think you may have seen a copy. They did make some suggestions about some islands in the middle of the roadway north and south of the intersection to generate some slowing of the traffic. And I was wondering whether you would consider some of the recommendations in that study.
Yeah, we did at the very start of the project, there was the paving traffic study,
Yeah.
there was the road safety audit that was done, and there was also a corridor wide study.
Yeah, I got a stack of studies.
Yeah, I got a stack.
Got that whole folder, stack of studies, yeah.
So it was studied, heavily, the corridor,
Yes.
and all that, that's how this project came to be, you know what I mean? So all those studies, and there's, tons of improvements in those studies up and down the corridor. How do you pick the best ones, you know what I mean? That's always the questions, that we ask. So we go through, the first thing we look at is the crashes, where those happening at.
Yeah.
And that's where we want to, invest our dollars. So, and that, got us into preliminary engineering, it got us here to final design, that funding source comes out of that, all those studies that were done. I would say, I'd say every improvement we're making came out of one of those studies. Not everything got involved, got incorporated, there's no way we can do everything. So, it's a matter of value, you know what I mean? Like, where do we put the dollars, versus, what improvements can be incorporated, what can be handled in another project as well. One thing, like you said, this is getting to be a pretty large, big project in a lot of
This thing's an enormous project.
Yeah.
This is an enormous project.
So are there islands or not planned for this?
No, they're not, subdivisions.
The study not only asks for islands, but also some signage and some other markings. And certainly the township could take care of all the signage and all that stuff, but we can't do the in-the-road stuff. So that's, we'd like you to consider those in the design.
We can go back, take a look at that, and talk about that.
We have some residents here from that area, so they can maybe.
We'll get some public comments on it, but you already have a copy of the study. You've got them all, so take you a couple of days to read through all of it. Okay, I don't know if I have any other comments on the design. Well, I mean, this thing developed over a long period of time. This thing evolved, and most good designs take a long time to evolve, so I think we're at a point where we have a good design. I think the turning lane down there, Chambers Road, I think will be a real benefit. I run down that, a lot of people go to Delaware that way, run down 896 and then down that way and up into Roughly Crossroads. So I think that will certainly provide a safety benefit and a lack of delay in southbound traffic. All the other improvements, which are sightline improvements, are welcome. They all make it easier to get in and out of the intersection. So, have any objections to any of the others?
Just one thing I was thinking when I was looking at these was the idea, I assume the speed limit would remain the same. Is there a risk that because some of the curves are going to straighten out, that maybe people might speed a little bit more than they do now?
You could, I think, that there, in such spot areas, I don't think that would be a big concern. Like it's improving a curve, it's a very short distance, so it'd be hard for them to build up speed. Like cars will build up speed on long stretches of roadways. So I think by improved curves or intersections, I don't think there'll be a huge increase in speed. The posted speed's not going to change, and then without a roundabout, that's going to slow people down. Having stop signs out, and there's four-way down strips as well. So I don't think you'll see a big increase in speed along the road.
As you approach the roundabouts, for example, in Maryland, too, that I mentioned earlier, they have stop signs. They're actual stop signs. Are you going to have stop signs or yield signs as you enter?
There'll be yield signs.
Yield sign, okay.
Yeah, it's surprising that there's stop signs there. That's usually not what they incorporate in roundabouts. There's a splitter island that forces you to turn, go around the roundabout. There's a yield line, a yield sign right there. So if it's roundabout is clear, you just proceed right through.
That's what I thought, okay.
It would have a clear line, a demarcation line at the entry, so as the traffic enters, they don't cross that line if there's a conflict, they just stop. That's the rules now. Hopefully drivers can get used to that, but it comes pretty well, looks pretty.
Yeah, it's just like a yield when you make a right turn, is all it really is, that intersection when you yield, making that right turn. It's the same thing when you go down around that.
Stephanie, just related to your comment about driver behavior, we've had lots of conversations in this room about driver behavior and how badly it has degraded. And no amount of signage or whatever we do really has that big of an effect on somebody that's down to misbehave. So unfortunately, that's part of what we have here. We have rural roads that are originally dirt roads in Cal Pass and farm supply roads, and we have essentially paved them and made various improvements, but some of the geography just doesn't allow you to build a highway. So they still have many of the undesirable features. We've just improved them, and some people misbehave, unfortunately. We've had this conversation many times on township roads. And no amount of signage or anything seems to have any impact on some of these drivers.
Public comment, Jeff.
Jeff?
Is the state police pull-off still a viable option? And if so, when would that be done? Can you talk about that, please?
Yeah, we do have this, the pull-off area is just south of the roundabout. We may have to refine that a little bit, but that will be constructed along with the project. We're going to widen out the shoulder in that area. My understanding was when we met previously that officers will sometimes sit up in town by the school, so somebody would speed through there, the officer could pull out, and pull them over prior to the roundabout in this widened area. So yeah, that is still part of the project.
How large do you anticipate that being?
I think we had it about, 40, 50 feet and, 14 feet wide, so you can safely get off the road, that 2 cars, plenty of room for the officer to stand there, clearly out of the, traffic light.
One of the most common uses, people stop there to make phone calls, which is a nice thing to do. So you see a lot of cars parked there, they're typically making or receiving calls.
Any comments?
Can I go, before it goes out generally, just to remind everybody in the audience that I'm the chairman of the Historical Commission, so I'm speaking from the point of view of the Historical Commission, not necessarily. I'm not personally involved in this, I was involved. At Den Road, we have an older structure that's on the same property with the driveway issues that we're talking about. It's very close to the road that historically is, at least from the point of view of the Historical Commission of the Township, not unfortunately from the point of view of the PHNC, a historic structure of value to the township. It was a former blacksmith shop that was associated with the tavern that is now the house on the property, quite close to the road. And so I would just like to note that I would like every effort to be made to preserve its structural integrity. When you start, that's an area where you're going to be carving into the crest there. And so, given its age and the fact that it's a really strong structure, it does not have a lot of interior support. I think that needs some special attention. And I would appreciate it if you would get that. I'm sure the property owners would too. And then the other thing I'd like to talk about a little bit is the intersection at Appleton Road, because that's in the historic district. Everybody is, and quite rightly so, I am too, I got hit, concerned about safety on 896. What I would like is some better understanding about how introducing stop signs there is going to change some of the dynamics with respect to how the road affects the residents in the village, because any negative impact is going to have on the ability of people to be happy in homes, is going to have a negative impact on the economic viability of the historic district and our chance to preserve that. So we're going to go to a situation in which things are safer because people are not going to be speeding through there. But we will have stacking. We will have car sitting as a result of stacking. We will have the trucks that are passing through having to, gear back up and pull out of there, creating greater pollution than they do now when they're moving through. Is there any way of quantifying this so residents have an understanding of how these changes will affect them? And then, while we'll get people to stop, I've talked to at least one resident, and others may also have this concern, I don't know, but I think it's a valid one, who was concerned that we're in a sense putting pressures on the way that people behave, and so that some of the people who now are going too fast through the intersection will, once they get the opportunity to pull away too fast. And so, in some ways, we're transferring some of the danger from one location to another in terms of where people have to watch out for fast-moving traffic. When the 2009 study was done, the focus there was two parts. One, taming traffic, and the other, making the village a more livable space, a more walkable area. And they really go hand in hand, because if you can get the traffic to slow down or to stop or behave better, then people are more comfortable walking around. And when you get people on the road in a safe manner, you usually get traffic reacting to that as well. They did not look at stop signs. They used other methods, as John had talked about. They had gateway islands that were designed to reduce the speed of the traffic as it entered into the village. I think the speed of the traffic as it enters into the village is still going to be as much a concern for the residents who live there as the speed of the traffic as it moves into the village. And to basically just re-emphasize points the board made, I think it would be a very good idea to consider those gateway islands as a means of reducing traffic speeds before they ever get to the stop signs. I know that you have, I've looked at plans, I know that there are some, there's roadway markings, there's some, I don't know if they technically qualify as rumble strips, but there are some strips that are designed to get people's attention. But I think you really have a more effective control on people's behavior if you force them to actively respond by slowing down, moving slightly to the side. And I think that there is the possibility that as people become more familiar with this redeveloped stretch of road, that knowing that when they leave the stop sign, they're still going to have to deal with obstacle further down the road, namely the gateway island coming at it from inside the village, that could help prevent the sort of jackrabbit start issues that some people in the village are worried about. So I just only add my voice to what the supervisor was saying about those items. I think that they will serve a very important safety function, and it will help to get the attention of the drivers entering the village in advance of their arriving at the stop signs.
Okay. We can continue to look at that. We have to study and see, are feasible ongoing works for a center median roadway, what are the engineering standards for that, and is it applicable roadway in this area?
Well, I know that at least when this was looked at, and I have a copy that I believe is dated, March 2016, in which, at that time, it was actively being considered. So there must be some reasonableness in terms of its applicability. At least that would be my assumption.
Yeah, I would say we would need to go back and verify that. That's something that can be implemented. Yeah, I know what we did, look at that, that was one of the options we were considering, without the stop signs.
Right, I realize that these have been looked at previously in situations where there were not stop signs there. But the problem with traffic speeds in the village is one that's larger than simply the center of the village. It's a problem that exists throughout the village. I think if people are going to have to compromise for a stop sign, but endure some negative aspects of, that will come with, somewhat greater pollution from stopped cars and some greater noise, particularly as these trucks have to start up at all different times of the day, that at least walking away knowing that they've been able to get these trucks and cars to slow down before they come to that stop sign would be a great benefit.
There are some success stories that we've talked about in the past, that just as a reference in Marshallton, Pennsylvania, or Centerville, Delaware, where they put these in place, and I just would want to encourage you to take a look at that as well as a reference point, since that would be something that should be as successful here as it's been there.
I think the one in Delaware, I might have looked at that one.
Yeah, and another thing in terms of, getting cars to slow down throughout the village, in terms of which then makes the village safer, makes it more walkable. We've heard the possibility, I don't know whether it will come to fruition, of the development of some sort of living facility on the Kendallsville United Methodist Church. If the people who were there, we talked about either senior citizens or disabled vets, are the two groups that they were talking about. If, I think it's unreasonable to build them something and then limit where they can get around the village because the traffic is dangerous. So this becomes another factor in my sense of a need for a safe and walkable village.
I think you're hearing the message, right?
One thing that,
No, I want you to realize it's larger than what we've got right here now, too. And while the 2009 report was, in some respects, in response to expected development that is never going to occur now because those are vineyards and grazing land, that doesn't mean there won't be other development in the village that won't put people outside of and create a situation where they would like to be able to get around.
It might make sense to handle some of those improvements when, the actual facility goes in as part of that. It's, how much do you plan for the future? I think more you put in, the harder this gets. You handle the more pieces, makes a lot of sense. One thing too, going back to the center medians, a big issue with those is what goes into the middle of those, and then who is going to maintain it. Because if it's any type of planting or anything, that PennDOT won't maintain that. So that's always, we can put concrete in there or something like that. But the maintenance of that, it will be an issue that someone would have to agree to maintain that facility.
That's
not an issue.
it strikes me as a smaller issue than actually having.
Okay, if you guys are okay with it, that's some places don't want to have responsibility for maintaining it.
there's one other item I just wanted you to talk a little bit about. I think we've resolved this and talked about it in the past, and that's the phenomenon of traffic backing up the stop sign and how far up the roadway it would back up, and whether that would generate some interference for the school there. And the last time we talked about it, I think there was a reasonable assessment of that. So I don't know, we looked at that again, or was that changed? Or
Yeah, we did a Q analysis to see what would be the effect.
Q analysis, okay, that's the right term.
Well, how far it would back up, and then would it impact cars going in and out of school? And it didn't back up far enough. There was no impact. I can't remember the exact details of it, but I know that did come up at one point. We went out and counted the cars there, did our analysis. And, the one thing is you have the stop signs down at Strippersville. You have the stop signs down at 841, other places on the border. You have the school that stops. During rush hour, it backs up a little bit. There doesn't seem to be, too, significant delay that's created by that.
There's one surprising phenomenon. We have a four-way stop up in New London. And I used to observe that situation pretty carefully because my granddaughter used to go to that church on every Thursday evening, so I used to sit there and watch it. And it would usually back up about 18, 20 cars. And that was reasonable. But when you came south to the next intersection, which was 841, traffic wasn't there. I don't know what happens to it. I mean, it didn't seem like the same traffic because you would get the same backup, I think. Other than maybe the cross traffic up there is higher.
So that would be
Cross traffic. So we don't see the same thing down here as they have up there.
Correct.
Just
Yeah, I
a
would agree.
point of interest and observation. So I don't have any more.
It's not gonna public.
So at this point here, we'll open up for public comment. The only thing I would say is that there's no limit on this, is that try not to be repetitive. So if somebody makes a comment and you agree with that, certainly make a comment that I agree with what so-and-so says, or modify it or something. But don't repeat the whole thing if we can do that. Let's just give everybody a little more time to get some unique comments in. So, okay, we'll make sure that everybody gets a shot, okay? Everybody will get a chance to make a comment. Eric, go ahead. Former supervisor.
Township resident, taxpayer. First, I'd like to ask a question regarding Appleton. You guys have put a surface treatment down. How successful has that been in terms of accidents? I haven't seen it. I thought that it did. My own view about that intersection, because I live right there, and obviously I haven't been on the planning commission, Route 896 corridor study, Board of Supervisors, and having involved with the Walton DC. My own feelings about this is that you should do the island concept and pass on the three-way stop sign. I think that would be best for us. Paul basically said almost everything that I was going to raise, so there's no point in me repeating it. But I am concerned about tractor trailers. I've worn a lot of hats in my time, including being a tractor trailer driver. I'm actually pretty impressed with the guys who go through there late at night. You don't hear them a lot of times, they just kind of drift through. They've been doing that for 23 years. So, in any case, that's my 2 cents. I'd rather not do the three-way stop sign if we can get away with it at all, and do the barriers, the separation, whatever you want to call them. Not through. Because once again, like you said, the pollution and noise, and it's like I say, a tractor trailer driver is going to catch gears, heavily loaded, pulling out of there. It's going to hit the air brakes and stop late at night. So anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Dave Gallagher and my wife Gwen, we're the property owners on the corner there. And I think John articulated very well our concerns about the driveway issues, and maybe we can work that out. Some other things, and maybe other folks have this issue too, are what is the policy on trees and things like that that are going to be removed? Are they replaced? Or because we have some, certainly some other properties are more affected. And then the other thing is the fence lines. We have some cows there that we'll need to know in advance so that we know where that, how those fence lines are going to have to be moved to what degree. So I don't know where that discussion happens and how soon, because it'd be nice to know months in advance so that we can plan, how we're going to feed these animals and stuff. And then the other issue was these banks, because once you lower that road, those banks are going to become even steeper. And we have an erosion problem currently. We have a lot of plants on there to keep it. Is there an approach to the banks that is going to be, maybe, I don't know, the stepping stones or what? I'm just wondering what we're going to be left with. And I think that's going to impact a lot of the other properties. And then the last aspect was the, how long is this going to take? How long will we, you know, you gave us a start date, are we looking at a 4-month, 5-month? Or is that hard to? Well, I'm optimistic.
Yeah, to answer a couple of questions there, the trees and the fences that are impacted by the project, that'll be part of the right-of-way negotiation. When we get into the right-of-way phase, the first thing we'll do is get a letter from PennDOT. Incorrect on this.
I'll correct you.
All right. Letter from PennDOT, and based on that letter, will indicate, your project representative consideration for a right-of-way acquisition, and that someone will be contacting you directly by phone. At that point, they'll come out to you with a set of plans and sit down with your specific property, showing your entire boundary. We call it a property plot. And it'll show all the improvements along your property, anything that'll be impacted, what are the new improvements will be, where the existing features are. So you can get a good look at everything that's going on. Anything that is impacted, like a tree, fence, PennDOT will pay you to replace that in kind. PennDOT won't do the work for you, but we would prefer just to give you the money, get it done the way you want it, so you can hire your contractor.
When you're looking at the fence post, dig.
So,
So I only want to do it once.
but you might be able to make some money on the deal then, because PennDOT's obviously going to pay you for it. And, you relocate that fence yourself. But they will show you exactly where the right-of-way lines are, and what will be impacted. So that'll be all, and then PennDOT will conduct an appraisal of that property, of that piece of property. It'll let you know what they appraised the value at.
So all that's going to occur prior to the solicitation of the bids?
Yes.
So.
Yeah, that all has to be completed before we can advertise the plans and specifications to the
So
contractor.
what timeline are we maybe going to get this letter, and when will things start, do you think? Are you going to kind of go down the line, or are you going to do this all at once? Or?
Well, it would really depend on how the right-of-way unit at PennDOT handles it. Actually, I take it back. Is that a new contract? Okay. So it would depend, historically, PennDOT has used its own resources, its own staff in order to do this. There's so much work in District 6, which is the greater Philadelphia area, that there are certain projects, as one of them, where that coordination, those discussions are actually done by the consultant staff. So it's actually Elwood's team, it's not Elwood's company, it's a different company. Elwood's team will come out and talk to the various property owners, and there's 88 takes, there's a lot of property takes. Most of them are strip takes. There's gigantic properties and we're taking a few feet. But it's still 88, it's a lot. So it'll take a while to get to everybody and have those discussions and the desire is to adequately settle. The department would prefer that conversations occur between the property owner and the department such that we all come to an agreement and then the money gets paid and we're done with that particular property, that particular property, that particular. And when all of them are done, then we can clear the entire right-of-way for the job. And that right-of-way clearance has to occur before the plans ever go out to the contracting communities. That's the process. The answer to your question is we are at August, probably middle of October. I would think by the end of the year, those letters should go out. And then all this discussion will happen in 2020.
David, just one kind of observation on the sequence related to the property is that the road work that's going to occur on 896 in front of the property, as soon as that starts, essentially it would landlock you. So it seems like the driveway remedy would have to precede that so that you can operate.
Absolutely.
Because that's not a minor job, that's not something you're going to do overnight in the next day
No.
of service. So
No.
you
No.
can't be landlocked for that long. So I would think that whatever the remedy is, that it would be in place before they disable your current driveway. So that's just my observation. Yes.
Okay, and that refers back to the question of timing. We anticipate, again, this is 5 miles worth, so it's a lot of project area. The entire thing from start to finish, we're looking at 2 construction seasons. That does not mean that for 2 years in front of a particular property is affected. It'll be working down the corridor as the contractor sees fit. We will have what's known as traffic control plans. They are also known as maintenance prevention traffic plans, where our designers will suggest how the various pieces of the project should be staged. And we'll have that thought through and provide to the contractor. It's a fine line, it's a juggling act that the department does. We do not dictate to the contractor what he or she will do, because if we do that, it raises the prices. So if a contractor has a better way to do it, they can approach the department and change that plan. But according to what Elwood and ACI has looked at, is there'll be pieces of this that will be done. So this portion will be under construction, and the next portion will be under construction, and the next portion is. That's how we're conceiving it. The contractor could turn around and say, you know what, I've got lots of crews, so I'm going to start at Hess Mill and I'm going to start at Appleton and do 2 pieces at the same time. They're allowed to do that if they so desire. But so I wanted to talk about how we're conceiving of it, but then how it might be done. But I cannot envision any portion of this corridor being under construction for 2 years. That seems unreasonable.
One last bit. And when should we become concerned if we have not heard or gotten a letter, and who we contact?
February 15th. I'll give you a day and call me.
We have your contact.
Yes. So.
Okay, we have more. Chuck Phillips.
Along that same line, I just recently ran into this 38-year-old driveway entrance onto a PennDOT road that didn't have a permit. Do you know for sure, has anyone looked at whether all the driveways have permits, or are they required or are they not required on these roads?
Boy, did you pick a tricky subject. By policy, every entrance on a state highway should have a permit. That being said, as you said, a 38-year-old one probably doesn't have a permit. But it would be an existing one. So that's where it ends up being tricky. So usually what happens in the right-of-way negotiation process, assuming that property is being impacted to the point where we need some land. That land could be, we need the land in perpetuity, or the land could be, we need it in order to construct things like a driveway adjustment, and then we walk away. The first one is a permanent take. The second one is a temporary construction easement. Either of those would trigger discussions between the right-of-way unit at District 6 and PennDOT and the property owner. In those discussions, an unpermitted driveway may come about. And it's usually on an individual basis as to what's the best solution is. Sometimes it's a PennDOT process of permit, sometimes it's handled in a different way. I can't begin to suggest what a given solution to that would be. If there is access, and that access has been there for a while, I don't know that there's been a case where that access is cut off. It's possible, but there'll be discussions that will occur before that ever happens. And I can't off the top of my head, I haven't done every project in the district, I've only done some. There's lots of work that comes out of King of Prussia. I don't know in my experience that those get cut off. There's usually some sort of accommodation that happens with regard to that. And sometimes, I take that back, sometimes that particular place gets cut off and another access is provided someplace else.
Okay.
So that I have seen that. But to just close it, I haven't seen that to date. Is that help to answer your question?
So is PennDOT going to concern themselves that each property has a driveway? Or are we going to end up with properties that are essentially landlocked?
No, we can't. As I had mentioned to you before, access to properties must be maintained. If the state, particularly the Department of Transportation, proposes to close that and provide no other access, the state would be required by law to take the entire thing.
Okay.
I personally don't want to do that anywhere on this corridor. There are certain projects where we have to. I don't see anywhere on this corridor where that should be required.
Other public comments?
Still with that.
Yes.
Yeah, John Paul, with Register, Landberg, Kinsville State. E96 in Appleton Road. We're right on the front lines of what's about to happen. I mean, literally, we are right on the front lines. I don't know how long this is going to take. I know that something needs to be done. As far as I'm concerned, things should have been done a long time ago. As far as the stop signs go, I kind of agree with something needs to be done. Something definitely needs to be done about the speed coming into the village at both ends. With that said, something before all this construction starts, the traffic just leaving Appleton Road as you approach the southbound 896. I can probably sit there and tell you out of 10 cars, I would say maybe 3 will stop at that stop sign. My driveway, as well as Larry Teresa's driveway, to make a left turn out of there, you pretty much have to say 3 Hail Marys and go for it, okay? So, again, I don't know how long it's going to take for this to take place, but in the meantime, is it possible to maybe put some hidden driveway signs, something there? I mean, I've cut the hedges back, but the stop sign, as you come around that there, the stop sign's almost into my driveway. So I don't know whether anybody's actually, in my opinion, people around here have gotten so used to the fact that they can just roll right through it, and we're just gonna, and we're gonna blow right through it. Now, we've almost been hit several times, and it's a concern. So, again, I don't know how long it's gonna take for all this planning to take place, but that right there, in my opinion, is very critical. I'm almost to the point where I'd like to take my driveway out of Appleton Road. I put swing gates back there, almost to the point where I'm just going to drive across my property and get out of there that way. It's a lot safer. So I don't know what we can do in the meantime before these projects take place. But I'm telling you, I mean, I watch it all day long. And it's not just that they roll through that stop sign. They hit it, okay? And I don't want Lauren, my neighbors, or anybody else to get into an accident there. So again, whatever we can do, maybe if it takes 2 years, but in that amount of time, something that needs to be done on that get on there.
So if I understand you correctly, what you're asking is can hidden driveway signs be put up?
Something. Flashing, maybe, I thought maybe a flashing red light on that stop sign, something in the street, maybe saying that there's a stop ahead. I don't know.
The intersection at Flint Hill Road, and I guess it's Good Hope, was done recently. It's amazing. What a difference. You see the flashing lights at night, you see them during the day. I mean, if we could just get something, because it seems as though when people are coming down Appleton, they're so busy looking left to what's coming out the
Right.
96 that, ooh, wow, there's a driveway there.
Okay.
I know John leaves in the middle of the night. I leave around 7 in the morning, and I'm seriously can't pull out without my windows down, radio off, and I sit there and I just listen. Because they come flying. They don't stop at all. You guys experience it too?
They also tend to pass each other on Appleton and
Yeah.
as well as on the curb. So
Yeah.
not even just speeding, we've actually seen people passing each other on the curb.
Yeah.
Some egregious driving sometimes.
Yeah,
No doubt.
And I personally think a stop sign there is going to be a disaster for us. I really do.
I agree.
I mean, not only the noise, but the smell. And when a truck comes down 896 coming out of Delaware, they are flying. And I know that the gentleman mentioned that sometimes they come quietly around the corner. We leave our windows open at night. I don't know how quiet you've ever heard it. It's loud.
We actually fought to get the brake retarder signs put in, but it's blocked by a telephone pole. For some of the drivers that I yell at, depending on my mail, I see shade brake going all the way through. I didn't see a sign. So I go up there and it's literally blocked by the telephone pole. So he may not have seen it.
So the brake retard sign needs to be relocated.
Just so they can see it, so they can't complain. Then can I add law enforcement? I mean, you guys can spend thousands and millions of dollars, but pay these gentlemen, and I know they got a lot to do. That's more important, but pay these gentlemen to sit there. Because when they're present, it's a big difference.
Yeah.
We've seen them at Weir's, and just that presence, man, it's like, whoa, I better stop. Go through Newark, Fairfield.
You've got the telephone company.
Verizon, Verizon substation.
Right.
Right there.
Go through Newark, and people slow down there.
Well, I think that's correct.
That's because Newark City Police catches you.
Is that our sign, Jeff?
What's that?
This J brake sign?
The J brakes are ours, we located them where PennDOT asked us to, but I can look at that tomorrow
I
and
think
see if there's any.
that's resolvable.
I think that's something
I
we
think the
can look
signage and
at.
flashing stuff were as temporary measures, the flashes and the hidden driveway signs are a little all right. I think somebody's got to engineer it, there's some pop stuff in there.
We can look into it.
But I think if you could work with us on those, I think they would be reasonable things to do to help the residents out in the area.
Thank you.
Can I also go on record against the islands?
Pardon?
Can I go on record against the islands in Campbellsville? I know a couple of people are saying that they would be great things, and there is a quarter-mile drag strip in either direction from the sharp curve that people just take off. There's motorcycles always taking off there, but I asked you to look at Greenville and see how many people have hit those. I personally have a family friend who hit one, flipped his car and died. So I'm worried, especially being in the house, that that car might flip into.
And our house has been.
It has been hit, it has almost been hit 2 other times. Yeah, I'm still worried.
Okay. Bart?
Bart Nave, township resident, taxpayer. I live right at Den Road, right there, closest to the roundabout location. So I'm a little concerned there about that dropping 4 feet. And of course, Den Road dropped 4 feet, and my driveway's gonna drop 4 feet. I'm not in as bad a situation as Dave and Gwen, but it's gonna make that really steep for me. So my first question is, there is a face-to-face with DelDOT, not just some voice, some nameless faceless voice on the phone, right?
Yes.
Face-to-face. At what time during the final design do I get to talk to these folks? And the reason I'm asking is, if if you're headed towards construction documents, and I get a late, visit with DelDOT, then the desire is going to be trying not to change the design because it's going to cost a lot. So I'd like to get my 2 cents in early. So I see that right along that road, probably 20 of my legals are going to be taken out. It looks like there's kind of a right-hand turn lane or something. What is the reason for widening it so much right there on the northbound where the stop sign is now? What's the reason for widening that so much?
It's actually not the widening that is creating that. It's when you lower the road, you lower it 3 feet. Now you cut back the slope, and it's actually that cut slope. That's like where the road's down here, and then you lay this side back up 4 feet and 2 to 1.
Right.
So now you're another 8 feet back from the road.
So there's an alternate way to do that, right? You turn that the wall there if you want to, as an example. Yeah. So I have a little sketch here I'd like to send you. I want you to consider possibly an alternate driveway for me, when I do get a proper permit, because it's coming off 896.
Yeah.
So I'll give it to you just for food for thought, because that, lowering that driveway, and that's also, a driveway is a temporary construction unit, so it's going to be a little difficult for us to get in and out during the whole construction process.
Yeah.
My guess is, so if you consider what I've drawn, it's a real easy grade getting up to my garage, give it a shot, and if you could give that to PennDOT person.
Sharon, could you get copies of that for
Yeah.
us?
You have your address and contact information?
I'll do that.
151
It'll, the face-to-face will all start with that letter that comes out. It'll be started with a letter, and then there'll be phone calls, and they'll be back and forth. It won't be me contacting you, but ultimately that will come back to me, and we'll be the engineers who have to figure out the solution for driveways.
Anybody else? I'll look more over here. This lady.
Hi, Sarah Profile, I live at 1862 New London Road, just right next to Scott's Glen. So at the meeting a couple of years ago, I think you said that the plan was to take a 4-foot wide right-of-way on either side of the road. Is that still the plan? And is this showing legal right-of-way lines? Is that going to be developed or changed from what is now woods?
The legal right of way, the right of way exists. This is what's there today. This is what we're proposing.
With the guy, here?
The guy will be closer to the road. And the reason why this required right of way line is so far out is this is the slope line.
Right. Okay.
That is because of what Ellen was saying, the dropping of the road, the dropping of the crest curve or bringing up the sag curve would cause us to regrade, and it's that regrading that's being shown here.
Okay. And so is this going to be, right now this is a bank with trees on it? Is that going to remain, or is there something else happening to that?
The color lines out here, so those, the trees right here would be.
Okay. And I want to thank you because I think the plans before talked about addressing the dip and the one hill on Scott's Glen, but not the hill where we lived. It looks like now that's going to be addressed, so I appreciate that. Because I remember you said at the meeting before, you could really only work with the data you had based on, I guess, traffic incidents. Our mailbox was taken out 3 times in 6 months, and we made sure to call state police each time, so you have that information. So I hope that you're still getting that information to keep developing your plans. There was some other questions. So where the grading is going to be changed, are the utility poles going to be relocated?
I would believe, yes. We haven't started the utility coordination process, but I find it difficult to see those poles staying there.
Go back, okay. So going further down the road, in this direction, another intersection that's difficult, but I didn't hear discussed, is with Parsons Road at the base of the hill for the church. Is anything being done at that intersection?
It's the next intersection.
We didn't have any significant improvement there. We're doing some drainage improvements. I know, like, once you're down that hill, you get down in there, like, water tends to flow out from there. We're doing some drainage improvements down in there. We didn't see any significant improvements at Parsons. I know there's a lot of intersections along the corridor that, site distance is limited at. Again, we went back to the crashes and where are crashes happening. We build up, our solutions, pick these, based on where those crashes are at. You sort of identified it as Glen Road, we had that one in. Parsons, you know, right now, there's no significant proposed there.
Jeff, some years ago, we looked at that intersection.
Yes, sir.
As there were some concerns about it. We made some adjustments to vegetation that we need there.
We put a stop bar up on Parsons Road, we did some clearing back.
Clearing back.
And-
The site distance wasn't perfect there, but we made a significant improvement.
And we did ask PennDOT to look at that intersection, and at the time, they didn't feel any additional signage was warranted.
And then, just to echo some of the comments about the traffic in the village, with the school being there, I'll just ask you to take that into consideration, that a crosswalk might be nice there, because I understand a lot of people park across the street to go to the school for various events, so something that would be helpful with that would be appreciated. Yeah, I'm concerned with the three-way stop, that the car line for school could be, I should put this, like, it's already bad in the mornings, but with stacking cars, it could be worse. And I have to say, like, I'm one of the people that goes through the car line every day, because where I live, I'm terrified to put my kids on school bus in front of my house, because I have no confidence people would stop and respect, you know, the stop sign on the school bus. So anything you can do to help with that traffic situation with the school in the mornings, the afternoons would be appreciated.
Yeah, like you said, we did study that, the effect of putting those stop signs at Appleton, and how it would affect the school in and out, things like that. And we don't, it's not gonna have an adverse impact on that school. I don't think it'll be the same, you know, situation as what it is now.
Yeah, a crosswalk without stopping traffic really is not gonna work very well. You can't cross it, that's the issue we have right now, is you can't get across the road, but at the stopping point,
A crosswalk without a traffic light, we try to avoid them, to be honest with you. I mean, saying they're out there, they do, you know what I mean, but I would really, we'd have to have strong warrants.
the school has looked at using parking across the street for their events, it just didn't work out, it's just unsafe for anybody to cross that road without stop signs.
I appreciate that, but I really need that as a concern.
Yes.
Yeah, what's the price tag for all this?
Your name?
$7 million for construction.
Yeah, buddy.
And that doesn't include right away, it's probably $1 million.
We're talking about 9 million.
Yeah,
Those are 10 after it's done.
that's usually what happens.
Not 15.
Good with federal dollars, okay, for it.
But federal dollars. So in other words, instead of transferring the debt from Pennsylvania, they're transferring it to the taxpayers from the federal spot. I mean, there's over $20 trillion in debt. You want to put 15 more on it.
I don't think one will work out.
So in other words, you got to spend it.
I'd like to spend it in Pennsylvania. So I would, anywhere else.
The more taxes we get.
We're paying taxes a lot.
But somebody got to draw the line somewhere. But nobody wants to.
Yeah, there is concerns, but I also look at the safety benefit, you know, the crashing along there.
Health and safety, right? That's getting to privacy. Correct? I've not heard of health and safety in my whole working career. Now they throw privacy on top of the health and safety. Where's it going to quit? Because there is no privacy.
Look, I mean, I'm not going to answer those questions tonight. At least I'm not.
When?
Hi, I'm Gwen Galligan. I live there at Crossroads Road 2896. We just got back from England, and there are no stop signs there. Everything is a roundabout, even if it's just a little tiny thing, they have a roundabout there. Most of them are on level ground, and that intersection just dives off as you go north on 841. What are you gonna do to get that done in there?
There'll be a buildup of that side of the intersection, which is sort of why you can see the large right of way, large cut fills around that intersection. But you're exactly right, that side of the intersection is gonna be raised up, filled in, so we can have that running out of there. You know, everyone's
Translator will create the flat space that goes roundabout.
Okay. But after that flat space in the roundabout's finished, you're still gonna be way down going towards Becky's house down there, so it's.
Yeah, you have to slope
Yeah.
the ground back to meet the existing ground, yes. Yeah, E96 is used, it's a very used.
A lot of big trucks on 841 coming up that hill, going up on the other side.
Well, the good news is they won't have to stop. They can keep going. That should help.
If they can get into the circle.
No, it will be designed so that they can navigate through it.
I'm Zach Mellinger. I'm a township resident and taxpayer. And I just wanted to say, I live in Scottsville Road, and I was at the meeting a couple of years ago, and I appreciate being as it is to help, because I have 3 young kids, and this will be done before they're driving, and it's a scary point out there. I appreciate that.
It's a tough spot to get in. Yeah. I know a couple of people that are Carl Whitty, and I've talked about that many times. And he thinks that the entrance to the village should have been south at one point, so that's over the dam right now. But I think this will be a big improvement for Scotts Glen in the site distance. Thank you.
Anybody else? That's okay.
Wow.
Okay.
We're going to take extra comments now. So
How long is it gonna take from beginning to end? You just don't know because you have a contractor that's eventually gonna get the job.
Right.
You don't know.
We're expecting the entire corridor to take 2 construction seasons. So approximately 2 years.
So 2 years.
And the
But
reason
that
why.
one down at 273, that roundabout, it's still not
Seriously,
done.
I know.
I've been
That's
going
like
through that
2
for
years
2
per
years and it's
roundabout.
still not done. Don't hire them.
Have we run out of comments here? Not hearing any more.
I have one, since you're here. We have brake retarder signs on 896 going into the village. Could we get one on Appleton going before the village starts so that we stop them from using brake retarders as they come up Appleton into the village as well?
If I understand you correctly, John, did you say those brake retarder signs in the townships?
I think we put them up, but you directed us where.
I think it's a township PennDOT process.
We don't have a problem putting the signs up.
We'll add that to the list.
Bruce, I can work with Don on that
So if
too.
you give us a recommendation, we'll put the signs up.
I'll contact Don about that and these other issues too, with the signs and the hidden driveway.
The signage stuff is not, I mean, I wouldn't call it anything cheap. It's not a high dollar. It's doable. If it helps, it's doable. And certainly, some of the stuff is something to do.
Okay.
I was Randy, township resident, taxpayer. My mom and I live on Appleton Road, and I'd like to echo what these folks were asking for, just about increased police presence. I kind of feel like we will occasionally get an officer down at Walker Road to look at people blowing the stop signs, but as far as just the speeding through our little section, we're right in between 896 and Walker Road. And I see people coming from Walker up to the stop sign at the intersection, and they go from stopped to 50 miles an hour when they're going to the house. So I think that if we could have, even just, I think just like you folks said, just seeing a police
officer, and thank you for all your service to our community. But I think that it would greatly help just to maybe put in people's minds that, you know, there's officers there, I should think about how fast I'm going. So that's pretty much just what I'd like to add.
Okay, so we finish this one here? Looks like it. One thing I want to talk about is the state, Pennsylvania State Police. The township is entirely satisfied with the service that Pennsylvania State Police provide. They're courteous, responsive, and I find them to be a great benefit to our community.
Yes, they are.
We have an officer here tonight, so if you had any specific questions, I'm sure he would entertain them as best he could. He's not prepared for anything, so.
Before you leave, show me on the map where you. Anyone?
Sure, I had one.
Go ahead.
I'm not a resident, nor am I a taxpayer in this, but I am.
You're welcome here.
I'm on the Board of Supervisors in New London Township, and on the issue of brake retarder signs, question for our friend the trooper, do you enforce that?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Do you enforce the Jake brake signs? If there's a Jake brake sign and you see a semi-truck apply the Jake brake in the area where the sign is, are you permitted to enforce that sign?
Is it a yellow sign?
Jeff's left.
Jack?
Well, does that make it? I'll ask. Is it a yellow?
It's a white sign.
It's a white sign.
I'm not 100% sure
I'm
about that.
going to apologize for putting you on the spot, but I want to let everybody know in here that New London Township put up Jake brake signs in our township, and we were told that Pennsylvania State Police would not enforce them. We would have to have a local police force enforce them because they were a township sign.
It sounds like you've already, I was going to say, it sounds like a police policy issue, not for
Yeah.
this particular officer.
So
then we need the state to install them.
So if that's the answer you got, then Jerry, I don't know what.
yeah, that's what when it came up, I wanted to ask a question.
Yellow.
Yeah, this is high-level policy, and really, I don't think it's up to an officer here.
That is why I ask. I mean, the yellow with black border is a department regulatory sign. But the black, I'm not saying that it couldn't be written. There was especially DOT detail in that borough, and somebody came through Jake braking. Sounds like a good citation to me. But it's kind of like the old, if a tree falls in a forest, if you're not there to see it or hear it, you can't enforce it.
True.
Well, I think the sign provides some
It's helped a lot.
encouragement to conform, but that doesn't mean that everybody conforms to the rules. We know that. But I think they're helpful.
It's definitely helped a lot with our house.
Right. And something like that, whether it's an official Department of Transportation sign or not, a lot of truckers are good people and they're trying to follow the rules.
That's their license, too.
Right. If you have a CDL, that's your livelihood. But I'm here to tell you that there are some truckers out there, and you probably met a few in your day. They're more interested in circumventing the rules and the traffic laws than they are following them. I'm not saying that these are the people, well, they probably are the people that we're here talking about. But
Strovers out of Delaware.
I watched a lot of
I've called
trucks.
their corporate office many times. Strover.
I've watched a lot of trucks out here northbound coming into the village. And for the most part, they really slow down because they know they can't get around that turn without staying in their lane. So there seems to be a significant number of responsible drivers coming through there. But you only need one guy going the wrong time, you've got a problem.
the other thing that I can do is put Kendallsville
stop signs and speeds and Jake breaks back into the daily roll call and get some more police presence.
Speaking for Liz, I mean, she's been complaining for a long time. She lives right on Appleton Road. Even put her own signs up there. And, yeah, they go really fast on Appleton. And there's a stop sign right here. I mean, you come down 896 there, and it's 25 miles an hour in the village. And there's a stop sign right here at Walker Road, and they're still fly by her house really fast. That could be a good place for some deterrents.
Okay.
Now, you're definitely there, there's a huge difference. I can get my mail without getting run over. It's nice. It's nice to be able to walk across the street and get your mail. Because I look and see you there, see the presence there, and it's the day like different. Like Fridays, spend a Friday rush hour there. You guys will, it's definitely, maybe national pads. We should be writing a lot of tickets.
There's, anything alongside the road, any road furniture is vulnerable to damage. Many, many years ago, I first moved in the area, I took some driver safety class in Delaware, and the trooper said, the one thing I remember saying, he says, look, if you leave something alongside the road, a parked car or something there, he says, if you leave it long enough, somebody will hit it. Just a fact of the way people drive. Okay, so I think we have completed PennDOT's presentation. We've got public comments. Bruce, I don't think we have any other questions. At the moment, we've got some of our comments about the islands and certainly the driveway at the Gallions property.
And the public did a great job.
Thank you for your comments. It was very well organized. Everybody was very polite. I certainly thank you. Anyway, like I said, we got other items we're going to get into. If you're not interested, as I said, you're not going to be anything else to give you. A long discussion on why I'm pretty sure I have watched them. Thank you. appreciate you coming, but just move to the other room there. You got two more items, two major items.
I was just trying to take it from the
So now we get back down to the meeting. I'm really confused on reading all this discussion.
She's pretty good. She's
She's heard it before.
Now what?
Okay, we are, the next item of business is the Lexington plant, Lexington wastewater treatment plant permit. Township sanitary engineers recommended that the board of supervisors submit to the DEP Part 1 water quality management permit application for Lexington Point subdivision waste treatment plant and drip disposal facility. So that's the beginning. Don, you've done the most research on this thing, so I'm gonna let you talk a lot.
Yeah, just a little, so, we were actually, oh, sorry, just one quick comment.
The draft solar ordinance, did we go over that?
Yeah, we're
No, we're gonna come back to it.
Oh, you're gonna come back?
Yeah, we're
Just give me a courtesy, because I got a 2-hour drive home.
It shouldn't take that.
It shouldn't take that
Oh,
long.
okay,
Yeah.
I just make sure you're not gonna stick it all together.
No.
Great.
Okay, so we were actually at the meeting where we talked about the concept of construction being for the facilities, but that there was a hope that once the permit went in, that you would contact DEP and that you would see if we could start working on the drip fill.
Yeah.
Okay, and so I heard that, and I think that's fine, but it's important for Sandy, and you know Sandy very well, that she have something to say about who your contractor is and also his plan of action. So I am totally in support of submitting the permit, but I want it done, and we have a motion here, with the, Mark, you can help us how we do this, but I want an agreement on the side or something written up, we can read it to you, that says that there's an agreement that would say that no on-site working would commence until the execution of an agreement between the township and the developer securing the developer's agreement to construct and fund the proposed waste treatment plant and drip disposal facility. 1. 2 would be the approval of the scope of work and approval of the developer's site improvement contractor for any proposed drip field construction work. And 3, a requirement that the developer provide notice to the township and that the township be on site to inspect any work conducted by the approved site contractor for any proposed drip field. And the only reason, and you know this better than anybody, why we're calling this out, is because we screw up the drip field. I don't know if that's you can mess it up. We're in big trouble, so we want to make sure everybody's holding hands when the contractor's selected and when the work is done for that drip field.
Yeah, and I will for the Fred Ebert Engineering, or the design engineer for this. I would allow for an even further condition in that we may have a separate contractor rather than the installer that goes in and establishes the field. So our requirement would be to first stake out and put up an orange fence, which is usually put on a super silk fence with an orange fence on it so it's stable.
Right.
And then we would go in and we would have the contractor approved by Sandy and their equipment to go in, because it's basically a combination between a farmer and a landscaper that really will go in, it will kill the grass that's there, and then plant the crop, because we need to have the crop established, and that's what we're asking for permission to do prior to having the issuance of the Part 2 permit.
Right.
So once it was submitted in, I was going to contact Nancy Sansoni with copy to Sandy to obtain permission. We've done this multiple times in Upper Newport Township. And then once we obtain permission for that and establish the crop, then we work with Sandy, almost on a shop drawings of who the contractor is going to be that's going to establish it, what his methodology he's going to do to establish it, which is separate than the construction of that, of the actual fields. The thing that's an unknown to me, and hopefully it's not an issue, that the agreements between Greg, our solicitor, and the township solicitor get worked out and it's already funded, that this all happened, and then we don't have to do a side agreement just for this first phase. So I don't think that'll be an issue.
Yeah, I don't know what the timing is, I'm just telling you, I'm not going to vote to approve, to submit the permit until something's in place.
Right, and then what I would be looking for, and we got communication from Greg Edelman, the attorney for Creek, today, indicating that he didn't have the issue conceptually with the agreement that, with the modified agreement for the new system, but they just wanted to work out with you, I think, the details on the phasing and the operation and how much the whole thing was going to cost.
Yeah, we can have, I guess
But what I would be looking for is essentially Greg's sign off on this modified agreement.
Yes.
Because the modified agreement has as a precursor the issuance of the water quality management permit. So we can't put that before the issuance of the permit, but as soon as work were to begin, we want to have this agreement in place. That
So
would
we
be
be able to submit to DEP and
I'm
not start work without the agreement.
No, no,
Yeah.
so that's, I want, that's not just
All
me.
he's talking about is planting a crop. And I
That's
think
big.
yeah.
No, before this thing goes in, I want it, I don't care what you call it, an agreement, something signed that said that this will happen, these three things happen.
Yeah, and what I would do would be to send Greg a letter and say, these are the conditions of approval. Please confirm that, you and your client understand them and agree with them.
And sign it and
Yes.
get it back to us. Do you see what I'm saying? I don't care about the big agreement, that comes later. This-
Oh, I got it.
I want
You want
this
an agreement
piece.
to agree that we won't do any work until 1, 2, and 3 are done.
Exactly.
I'm good with that. I'm good with that. Absolutely, I'm good with that.
I mean, the critical issue is that this thing is land critical.
I know.
And there's just no room for a mistake in messing up the land. And if, we don't want this to happen, and I'm sure you don't want it to
The
happen.
sooner we get this thing
So-
fenced off, the more secure
It's
everything.
safer, but the other thing we don't want to find out is that someday somebody comes in, oh, it's already done, we didn't see it, or anything like that. That can't happen. That would just be,
I would
send
say I
our
would do
sewage-
every effort and have every communication
that would
with
send
my
our sewage
client.
engineer up the wall.
It would send me at the wall. But, and I don't think it will, and we thank goodness that we're trying to get this under contract, and that's where I want to get it fenced off, because that's really the first thing that starts it. And establishing the crop is really the first thing it does. So those conditions, I'm agreeable to. I can represent my client, and we can do those.
Right, so, and then you'll make sure whatever you need signed is signed for this piece.
What we're talking about here, though, if I'm correct, is what we had talked about in the meeting with you
Yep.
guys. We're just approving that the permit be
Submit. Yep.
But not until this agreement is signed off.
She wants a
The
letter saying.
subset agreement, so not the
Okay.
big agreement,
Oh, no.
just
Yeah, right.
the little agreement that says that Sandy gets to pick the contractor,
Right.
Sandy gets to be there.
It's approval.
Right,
Okay.
I'm sorry, you're better words, right?
So Fred, just so we're clear though, the second condition was approval of the scope of work and approval of the developer's site improvement contractor. That would be concerning the work that you making the request to do before the issue.
Both.
Both.
It would be both. So basically,
We'll
we
cover that.
are agreeing that we have to get both our pre-contractor for planning the crop field and our ultimate installer approved by Sandy Morgan. So we're agreeing that we won't select them until it's approved by Sandy.
So Mark, do we have to rewrite this, or you're doing that now? Because then we'll read into this. Right, I'm
Do we
sorry,
need
let's
to
do
say
it.
who's gonna approve it, like AECom, or?
Mark's working on it.
No,
It's a
I think
township
that this
representative.
covers anything because it says the improvement contractor for any proposed drip field construction work. Is this drip field construction work?
Yes, I would consider that.
Do you want to see the actual words? I know it's hard when somebody reads it to you. Just so you know, Mark, and everybody.
I mean, I guess I could say covering work done both before and after the issuance of the permit.
I'm good with that word. 1, 2, absolutely. 3. I'm good with 3.
Because we talked about all this, just,
It's absolutely everything we talked about. We agreed to all those, all 3 terms.
So does Mark make the motion? You need to tell her.
I was gonna ask you to read the motion.
He's working
Or
on it.
he's working.
I don't think it changed.
I don't know, he's right. I'm gonna mess with my lawyer, whatever he wants to do.
I mean,
He's still learning.
we could just add that, so this is the way too would read, approval of the scope of work and approval of the development site improvement contractor for any proposed drip field construction work done both before the issuance of a permit and after.
Absolutely.
That would just cover anything that, if you were to get approval from the DEP before the issuance of a permit.
I got those words. All right. So, Stefan and
Yes.
David, this was just a big issue that came to me, I was just all riled up over it. What is it, Joe?
Something was buzzing there.
It's the
What-
light.
It's the lights when the fan runs upstairs.
All right,
So,
so,
do I have to read the motion first, then we have discussion?
I would read the motion and then see if there's any discussion.
By Stefan and everybody else, okay, so I'll make it through this. All right, thank you for that discussion beforehand. So I make a motion that the Board of Supervisors approve the submittal of the Part 2 Water Quality Management Permit application for the Lexington Point Subdivision Waste Treatment Plant and drip disposal facilities to the Pennsylvania DEP with no on-site work commencing until, 1, the execution of an agreement between the township and the developer, securing the developer's agreement to construct and fund the proposed waste treatment plant and drip proposal facilities. 2, approval of the scope of work and approval of the developer's site improvement contractor for any proposed drip field construction work done both before the issuance of a permit or after. And 3, a requirement that the developer provide notice to the township and that the township be on site to inspect any work conducted by the approved site contractor for any proposed drip field.
I'll second it.
Thank you, David.
The purpose of this, the extras, is to give Sandy a little bit more control and oversight than she may not otherwise have. Is that?
Correct.
Okay.
Well, it's also to let that start work before the big agreement is in place.
Yeah, that's the important, you
That's
want
the
to get in
important part,
there.
I want to get in.
If DEP
September,
approves
October.
it,
Right.
it's up
I'm
to
sitting right there
DEP.
now, but I told DEP, I said I wouldn't, so I submitted it in, I wouldn't ask DEP, but tomorrow I'm probably gonna be asking DEP.
But it's up to DEP to give you that approval.
Yeah, I've greased the wheels a little
I
bit,
think they will.
yes.
Okay.
They understand the importance of 2 growing seasons of a crop.
Okay.
And they also said there's nothing they can do ever to stop me, because it is our property, it is a field.
So
It
they just
is.
went over that.
Yeah, so they said, you know, quite honestly, we can't stop any farmer from doing any activity, or anyone on that. I said, you know, but
Works for
that's
us.
not the intent, you know, the intent is clearly that it's a drip field and we want it done.
Right, and it's always about having a good relationship, and that's why you do it.
Why would not, going ahead and doing it.
Right. So anything else, any other comments?
No, I think it's fine.
It's just the drip, we gotta get the drip filled right.
Yeah.
And protect it.
So solicitor, are you happy?
I'm fine with it, I just want to be clear that this whole thing is subject to the execution of this agreement, but we're not going to have, because there's certain things we have to plug into a fully executed agreement, meaning one would be the water quality management permit that, you know, is being issued by the DEP. What I would like to have would be everyone sign off on the final form of the agreement. That's what I'd like,
Before the permit goes
before
in?
the permit goes in.
Oh, we don't wanna wait though. That's a whole idea.
Well, no, I mean, Greg Edelman has basically said, we're okay with this. I would just like something a little more concrete from him.
We can't implement the permit in any way, all we're doing is starting the clock.
I understand, and I'm not asking for the fully executed agreement. I
And
want
what
the
I'm
board to
concerned
understand that.
about is that what I want to be able to do, I understand your
Yeah.
intent, but the clock that I'm up against, and we're up against, is I really need to plant this from starting mid-September to mid-October is my only window where I have cool nights and warm days to establish a grass. And I don't want to do that until I have the permit in, that was my commitment. So if we could get the permit in, I can't utilize the permit or even begin this preliminary work until we've met those 3 criteria. The only thing we're doing is starting a DEP clock.
So can't you take a piece of paper and write this on and have whoever's in the developer sign it?
She's
But
asking.
we're only talking about the on-site work commencing, not the submittal of the permit. So we can submit the permit.
I'm not gonna submit the permit until there's an agreement that says Sandy gets to approve the contract.
Oh, for sure.
That's all we're doing.
I'm talking about this global agreement.
No, that can wait.
Yeah, that's
That
right.
can
Okay. As long as we understand that that's not going to be signed, sealed, and delivered.
Totally.
Okay.
That's the
all
main
I
one.
wanted
I
to
just
make
want
clear.
the little
That's it,
one.
Fred. I think
Yep.
we're on the same
I think we're on
page.
the same.
So what you just do is,
No, this is all fine.
Yeah.
No, convince me, so somebody has to sign it. That you have to
Jeff
get them to
Rudd,
sign
Bill
it.
Grieber will have to sign, they'll prepare it, but they'll
Piece of
sign it.
paper that has these things on it.
Yeah, no, I'm going to send a letter to Greg Edelman with a signature
Good.
uh,
And once we get the
placement
signature, then we can put the permanent. So
Yeah.
get, grease some more wheels and get Greg to, get ready to sign. the
Oh, trust me,
signature.
there'll be an email when they walk out of that parking lot.
Sounds good.
Telling everybody that, and then as soon as he signs it, there'll be a little car driving all the way down here to Joe's office saying,
Here it is, or an electronic. Okay, are we all on the same page?
Yes.
Do you have anything? All right, so we get to vote, right?
Yep.
So, what am I supposed to say? All in favor, say aye, right?
Aye.
Aye. All, anybody against? Don't dare say anything. Okay, good.
thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, thanks for staying with us.
Yep.
All right.
Now solar panels.
Let's give us your discussion about solar panels. Sounds like you're really on top of this, Tom.
Oh, no, not really.
I was into this, but so am I. So
Yeah,
we
John
had some
gets-
discussions today.
You've got a couple pages of.
You look at this document, I marked it out a few times.
Yeah, I've.
So, yeah, I know this. This is the DEP's rules,
Okay.
and that's an important part of this
So John,
discussion.
let me start quickly, then
I'll let you-
then I'll turn it over to you.
I'm gonna let you do it.
Okay, so-
You're really good at this.
Well, this is what I did in my last job. So, Jeff, so most of these comments, first of all, you've done an excellent job. You continue to do an excellent job. But once again, most of the comments that we put together from the last meeting, you've incorporated them into the next version, so thank you for that. Most of my comments are more about maybe a little bit too much of massaging, but for example, there was one where we say, this is what's going to be permitted, and then the next line says it's going to be in these zoning zones. I'm just saying, put them together so it's all there. But the big issue, and this is what I'm going to hand over to John, is this whole idea of impervious surface. And how restricted do we need to be? And we don't really, well, I can speak for myself, I don't really want to be that restrictive until it comes to the bigger parts. Because you have, for folks in the audience, we're talking about solar power for someone you just want to do for your property. And then it's like solar power that you want, that's maybe, it's a non-residential purpose, you maybe do a little bit extra. And then there's like the big facility that's what their focus is solar power. So Jeff's been good enough to divide it into 3 different sections, and each of them have different requirements, where the big one has like land development and all kinds of other stuff. But impervious surface, I don't know if people know what that means, when you just start blocking the rain being able to drain, you have issues. And our desire is not to make it so difficult for the average homeowner to deal with. And so now I'll turn it over to John, because John has some ideas.
The management of stormwater has been controlled by, I think it's Act 167, and that was passed here in 2013. A great deal, a tremendous amount of effort. It was written by the DEP, and Chester County Water Resources were involved, and that required property owners to provide a way of managing stormwater off of impervious surfaces. What I mean by impervious is the surface receives water, but it doesn't normally percolate into the ground. That could be a building that's got a roof on it, obviously, or it could be a gravel surface. Gravel surfaces are considered impervious. And each of those areas requires that you collect the rainwater from that spot and convey it to a place that puts it back into the ground, either through a simple rain barrel, if it's a small facility, a buried infiltration bed, a basin that collects the water and allows it to percolate into the ground. And that, all the facilities that have been built in the township now are covered by that. But these solar arrays are not. They're not at all. So the question is, how do we manage stormwater on a solar array? Because in some ways it's impervious, because the array blocks the stormwater from engaging the ground in the way that it would if it wasn't there. For instance, the stormwater will run off of the array and drip off, and you end up channeling the water and concentrating it. It may not percolate into the ground. That was what our concerns were several weeks ago, back when we started this thing. But then we found this little epistle. How many pages is this thing anyway? 7 pages? Written by 6 pages. It's written by the DEP. It says chapter 102, permitting solar panel farms. In reality, that's the proper language there, arrays, not farms. It's a misuse of language. It's nothing to do with agriculture. It's a commercial industrial facility that produces power. But they have put together a set of guidelines on how to manage stormwater off of these arrays. But it's not law. In fact, there's a disclaimer in here. I'll read it. It says nothing in this document affects regulatory requirements. The interpretations herein are an adjudication or regulation. There is no intent on the part of the DEP to give interpretations in this document that weight or deference. The document provides framework in which the DEP and delegated county conservation districts will exercise administrative discretion in the future. The DEP reserves discretion to deviate from the interpretations in this document if circumstances warrant, which says that this isn't law. It's just, but
It's their best thoughts.
it's the best thing we got. And it's written by the DEP. So there's some sections in here that clearly define what you have to do for a larger solar panel array. The six criteria you have to meet. And if you meet those criteria, then they consider your whole facility pervious and does not require any special treatment of stormwater. So my proposal is that we incorporate the DEP language into our ordinance, just as it's written. I'm going to copy it verbatim, probably or something pretty close to it. And then we don't interpret anything, we use their interpretation. If they change it, that's their issue. And then at some point, we might have to change our ordinance. But for us to generate something on our own, I don't think we want to do that.
But we don't do this for the average person. This is just for the big ones.
This is for the big arrays. We'll talk about the smaller ones. But anyway, that's my proposal. After reading this thing, I can see all the marks and highlights, and I must have read this thing let's just say more than once or twice. So that's kind of what my proposal is related to the stormwater, which was the big issue we had the last time we talked about it. So I don't know where the rest of the board is, or Jeff, you are with it, but that's kind of where
Well, I'd like to make a couple comments, and I gave everybody a little supplement that I brought down with me. I was kind of limited on time constraints getting the revisions out to you, and then I had time to address or give you some thoughts on the stormwater. And for the solar energy facilities that we're speaking about, if you turn to the second page, basically I did what you were already thinking about. So we're pretty much on the same page. I just reworded it slightly to make it look a little bit more like an ordinance as opposed to just a general document. And I can't say it's exactly finished. Because basically I just copied what they had.
Well, let's put this in perspective. We're not going to pass the ordinance today.
No.
This thing's going to go to the PC, but I guarantee that it's going to take them more than 2 meetings to go through this thing. So we're not done with this. So the idea is to generate enough detail and guidance to the PC to eventually get a document that will eventually approve and make an ordinance. So just put in perspective how much effort we needed to get this thing exactly right. Okay. So it looks like you've done pretty much the same thing that I talked about. Right?
Yeah, I think we're pretty much on the same
We talked
page.
about it today in the staff meeting. I think Donna and Joan and I pretty much came to the same conclusion. That's the way we're going to do it.
So you incorporated frequently asked question number 4 under your section B.
Yeah, that's the key of it right there, because what it says is PCM requirements, that's post-construction stormwater management. That means operation of the unit. That's not the erosion and sediment control during construction. This is the actual operation of the units. So that's it.
I don't know if you're-
And I clearly, in the second paragraph, brought in the fact that any roadways or support buildings would not be exempted, and they would have to follow normal.
Precisely. So any roadways any gravel roadways or paved roadways are impervious. Buildings, any other motor control centers or whatever that they need to support this would have to follow the normal Act 167 stormwater requirements.
Right, and all this would be brought out in the land development plan, and the engineers would know all of these 6 items, because it's the documents they're following.
Yeah, there'd be a significant amount of auxiliary equipment. You put in one of these big solar arrays, it doesn't have little wires. It's got heavy cables. You're going to put some real power.
Yeah.
So you're going to need heavy cabling and facilities to receive that direct current. It's low voltage direct current, so it's got to be converted to alternating current. It's got to have transformers to bring it up to transmission voltage, at least to the receiving site, wherever that receiving site is. But it's on the same road, or you've got to run wires up to a substation, and they got to match that particular AC voltage. It could be 5,000 volts, it could be 34,000 volts. So the point is that major equipment, auxiliary equipment is required besides the solar panels. Yeah. When you see one of these solar panels, you see all the panels, but you don't see that. But it's not insignificant.
The setback was changed to 75 feet, which is something I was kind of thought was important from last time.
Well, that was one of the things, when we first started this thing, we said, okay, first of all, we thought, do we really want to regulate this stuff? And we said no. But then, as we started to think about it and looked at, there's a lot of business people putting these things in, we thought that we ought to at least regulate some fundamental stuff, or setbacks. And there's a question of reflectance too.
I'm sorry.
We didn't want the panels to be some neighborhood nuisance that reflected on some of this property. I don't know how real a problem that is, Jeff. Do you know?
They're not like mirrors.
They're mirrors, but they're all at a fairly in this area, they're 39 degrees is the...
Correct, but all the glass is designed to absorb as much of the sun ray as possible. After those that reflect.
Yeah.
I'm not saying when you look at the TV screen there, it's basically black. You're not going to have a mirror effect off the panels. I thought...
And if you did, it would be inefficient.
Right. I think I brought some language into that on the commercial projects that would be practical. Probably get maybe a challenge.
Sharon, could you make some copies of this thing for everybody?
Jeff, on page 4, it says you have to provide a glare analysis report.
Yeah. That's probably it then.
Number 5.
That's still in the permitted accessories. The commercial energy generating facility doesn't start sections 2. I can verify that and make sure that we have something in it, or at least,
John, is that an issue for all 3 of them, the residential and the non-residential?
No, this is for the major arrays.
Yeah, page 7 of 25. Applicant shall provide a glare analysis.
So it's already in there.
I have an unnumbered.
I got numbers, you're going nuts.
Yeah, we put this on because last time it's a little hard to find everybody's talking.
So we are covered there.
Yeah, John, certainly.
Okay, okay, good.
I don't want to get ahead, but I have questions about non-solar, so I'll look for the solar discussion.
The one thing I was looking at, I made this little sketch the other day about what one of these panels would look like. And one thing they say, the DEP says, that the panel can't be over 10 feet high. So that would be the high end of the panel. So at 39 degrees, and if the panel's 10 feet, the other side of the panel is only 4 feet off the ground. So I'm wondering how you can maintain vegetation under that with those kinds of restrictions.
Not supposed to, right?
No, they want some vegetation, so you
Want to have all gravel, let all the water drain into the gravel.
Or we're not.
No, we're not going to do that.
Not
We're not gonna
forcing
do that. They don't want you to do that. They want you to keep, we want you to maintain certain type of vegetation. But in reality, if you can't use herbicides on it, you're going to get invasive species. Nothing else will survive. You can plant something else, but
You go
all
down
the
to
invasive species.
Route 10, where they put all those solar panels in, where you go through, or 41, all kinds of vines and everything.
Yeah.
All over the panels. Tons of weeds.
If you want to look at that document, DEP, or the one I revised,
Okay.
and look at point 6
In your document?
on my document,
Okay.
I think they're relating to the lowest end, and I think
Lowest
that's,
vertical clearance. Oh, lowest, I didn't read, should be.
and I think that is because of the drip rate from the panel to the ground.
They don't want it any higher than.
Yes. 'Cause
Okay, so then they're referring to my sketch really assumes that it's okay, so then I would think it'd be maintainable.
Yes. They want you to be able to have vegetation on
But you couldn't maintain it if it was drawn the way I showed it.
it. No.
Ferns, something that doesn't need a lot of sunlight.
Yeah, but you know what? Invasive species, if you can't put
Oh, sure.
herbicides on it,
They'll take
they
over.
cover everything.
But it's an invasive species, I mean, unless it's vines. but
No, there's
it's-
nothing
it's a
wrong with an
plant, yeah.
invasive species because they're ground cover. They're
Right,
bringing in their
Weed
ground
whack
cover.
under it? And then you get under there and weed whack.
Don't touch it.
But if somebody says, oh, you have to have orchard grass or something like that under, that's not gonna happen.
Got a couple cows.
Sheep.
You may start out there, you don't wanna end up there.
Goats.
All right, so that kind of answers the question, then, okay.
So any other questions on solar panels, or?
Well, there's no motion called for.
No, I have other questions for wind and
Well, were you satisfied with the residential assessment?
Let's go over that and see, because the intent there is to not generate a lot of difficulty for these backyard panels.
Well, originally, when I'm getting a permit for anything, I have to look at it under the normal regulations, and a solar panel is impervious. So unless I have some kind of wording to exempt it, I have to immediately say it's impervious cover. And I didn't want to leave that blank, because then it leaves the building official always with that question, what are we going to do with it? And yet, at the same time, I didn't necessarily know that if I just wrote out a blank statement and said they're not impervious, that would be a defensible argument if it ever came up with DEP. So if you look at the first page that I printed up, under accessory to residential and accessory to non-residential,
Okay.
I should have added ground on it, but I missed that. I simply stated that if grass and natural vegetation is maintained under the array, it would not be considered building coverage and shall be exempt from impervious requirements. Now,
That's pretty much aligned with the larger issue, the way.
right, but I just wanted to bounce that off Mark to see if he felt that that would be a defensible way of discussing this.
Well, assuming you can maintain ground cover, then I guess.
We are maintaining
Yeah.
impervious soil or whatever, permeable soil underneath it.
Right.
And also, this is going to be a very limited application. There's only 3 of them in the township.
We have 3 ground ones, but I think we got about 15 or 16 actual installations out.
Wow.
For-
Yeah, we do, yeah.
It's actually
The
more
rooftop, the
popular.
rooftop.
There's probably more than that in rooftops, but just in ground mounted applications, it's not something that's real popular just because people don't have that much backyard space. So I don't think we're going to see a lot of it. Now, somebody who may have 5 or 7 acres may go for it.
Well, Nystrom's got one, John Sullivan down there on Kimball's got one, and then I guess Turpin's got one up there in
Church.
across from Wyndham here.
Norm Hughes' old place.
Who?
Norm Hughes'
Oh,
old place.
he's got one down there?
Ground mounted behind the house.
So that's 4.
Okay.
But you fulfilled the intent, which is not to be burdensome, is to keep it simple.
Well, if they keep it impervious underneath, then that's essentially aligned with DEP's requirements.
Right. I felt that would be something at least where the township is giving some consideration for stormwater runoff. They're maintaining the grass impervious cover underneath.
Yeah.
Why do you have it for both? You have accessory to residential, which I understand, but then you have the same wording from accessory to non-residential.
Well, that would be in any of your commercial buildings like the school or little dumplings.
Okay.
There's 2 sections in the ordinance.
Yeah.
Or
That's
a
right, right?
farm.
Yeah.
Farm.
Okay.
So then, these 2 paragraphs will replace what is in here that said that
Yes.
the tire surface is impervious.
See, so originally, I thought we were gonna, I don't know if you remember the last meeting, but we talked about a paragraph, I know John didn't like it. We talked about if the resident can prove that you're not affecting the impervious runoff, it got to be, okay, well, what does that mean, and how do you prove it?
You can't
So,
prove
yeah,
that.
that's why this is so much better. Like, I don't remember my comments, I was trying to take you back to that, to make it more wishy-washy.
Right.
But this
we
is
didn't
much
see
better.
that- we didn't
Yeah,
see
This
this.
is much better.
We didn't see this
Oh,
DEP.
your
of this.
public talk? We love to talk about that.
Okay, go ahead.
So the state wants to implement a tax on impervious surfaces, right? Eventually, is that, are they trying to push that through? And
That's
this is not
the
impervious
The
surface.
long-term goal of this thing is to start taxing people on impervious surface.
And this
as
would
a
be
stormwater
included in-
tax.
If
saying
they
it's
put it
not.
on the ground,
No, for a resident, we're saying it's not,
it's not.
well, what are we saying? We're not really saying any, we're just saying we're not gonna make those requirements, we're not gonna make them follow those requirements. It's no, we're not saying it's not impervious, we're just saying we're not gonna force them to follow those requirements.
We're
It's
saying
not-
that they're enforcing it by maintaining the grass underneath it.
That's how they're managing it.
That's right.
Yeah, so it's still, yeah, it is
But I'll tell you.
impervious. But we're saying you don't need to do anything.
If I was a guy to put up a pole barn and had to put in all the stormwater facilities required, and then this thing gets a pass, I'd be unhappy.
I don't know, would you be just a happy person that the government's not interfering?
But look, I'm not,
Because it's not necessary, it's not necessary.
So I have a question in terms of when you're talking about non-impervious surfaces, we're talking about vegetation. How would you handle mulch? If somebody set aside this area and were to mulch it instead of grass it, would that be considered pervious or impervious?
I don't know.
That's considered impervious.
It would be.
Mulch is full pervious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As long as you don't put plastic underneath it like.
Right, I understand.
Gravel is not.
Right.
Gravel is not pervious.
Not glass, yeah.
Now, let's clarify that.
There are certain
Because
types
John
of.
said that gravel was not pervious, and I always thought that it was. Impervious would be blacktop. There will be a running off of blacktop, concrete, shingles, whatever. But stone, I mean, you've got gaps in between all the stones.
Yeah, but if you put down,
The water's coming down.
if you put down 2A modified, which is a mixture of 3/4 inch stones down to dust,
Right.
and you compact that stuff,
It's gonna be.
it's like a slug of concrete.
Okay, that defines the
But there are,
level of gravel, but is all gravel, is that why you're saying it depends? Because if it was just plain, let's say 2-inch stone, you're gonna have a lot of surfaces that the water can go through, without the modified.
If you have a clean wash stone, that's actually what they use in the infiltration beds.
That's what I'm thinking.
And in that DEP article, they actually, it sounds almost like they're contradicting themselves, but they're saying, if you use stone under it, gravel, it's
It's okay, right?
it's impervious and it's no good. But then they turn around later in the document and say, now if you have 6 inches of clean wash stone
That's pervious.
with a liner under it, that's considered a pervious.
I'm glad they wrote it, not us.
And it's actually what Pete and I discussed with the original document. That's why it was worded the way it was, that it would be 6 inches deep, clean wash stone.
Okay.
There are some special surfaces that are gravel that are considered pervious. Didn't the Paradox use some of that in that improvement they made down there? Some special gravel?
Oh, yes, it's stable.
But the problem is over time it gets clogged up, so.
Yes. Well, there's a
Gotta
pervious
be over
blacktop
time, it's
too.
gotta keep clogged up.
So this part will go back to what, the planning commission?
Yeah, I think we're ready to give it to.
Well, no, I'm not ready, I have more questions. So that was solar.
What about windmills?
Yeah, I could. Do you want me to hold off? I can.
Let's get everything we can.
Okay, so I'm into wind.
Okay.
And so, yeah, probably too much.
We do have one wind turbine in the township, we do have one.
Don Quixote.
All right,
So
okay.
I was in wind for residential accessory use, and my question was, so I'm on page 12, moving into page 13.
All right.
Why did we just limit it to the agricultural and LDR districts? Why couldn't it be also SU districts? I mean, how do you come up with these zones and where you're gonna let this be? Because I thought SU was where everything, that you couldn't put it in one place, everything goes to SU, special use. I'm just a question, how do you decide where it goes?
Section E, I believe, is for wind generating.
Right, it's the big ones, right?
Yes. I limited it to those 2 districts simply because they were the only districts that had larger parcels of ground. We can change that simply. And
Then
that
maybe
was-
let the PC decide. I don't, if SU had a big enough, I mean, because you have size restrictions.
Well-
Page 12, 12 into 13.
Well, that was, the restrictions were to commercial accessory use, just like residential accessory use.
Okay, so why, I'm still not following. So why can't it be SU? Because that's industry, right? You can put industry there, you can put anything there.
Well, the SU districts were so tiny, I didn't think it wouldn't even be feasible to put it in. I mean, we could easily include it, but that was my only thought process.
Technically, you're not, I don't think residential is a permitted use necessarily in SU, so this would be specifically associated with residential uses, am I correct?
Let me just double check.
When you read that SU ordinance, just about anything goes in SU, right?
Yeah, that's why I asked.
Yeah.
And we just so happen to have ours to be small, but doesn't mean that may not change. We'll just put it aside, something to think about. Maybe we take it to the PC. I was just wondering what our logic was not to have.
PC's gonna have to satisfy itself.
Mark's right, A is just for residential use.
So don't we have residential use, we have houses in SU?
But it's
Yeah.
by special exception, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, even though it's a special exception, they would still be allowed to have permitted typical normal residential accessory uses. And I could expand that.
It just got me back to our 1620 New London. I knew there was a house there, so I knew residential use was allowed in the SU just.
Yeah.
All right, let's just put that aside.
Constant circles, all that's you.
Just to put, that's just a question I had. And then also, if I go back to page 12, I think this is on the wood burning, the wood fire boilers. There's some dates, there were dates that were listed, there was dates from May 1st to September 30th. No persons, number 9, no person shall operate a new or existing outdoor wood fire boil between these dates, unless the outdoor wood fire boil is located at least 500 feet from any occupied building. Well, who picks these dates, or what makes it May 1st to September 30th as opposed to April 1st to October 31st?
The state actually did some regulations on wood stoves, and I think this corresponds
To the state, okay. So that's a good
I can
reason.
double check it, but I'm pretty sure I copied them.
Okay, so if you could, if there's a basis for it, that's
Yeah.
fine, okay. And anything else? And then I just asked you some other questions, why we went from 55 feet to 70 feet? But then-
Well, that's a good question.
Oh, it is a good one, okay.
Where are you, Don?
Page 13,
Section.
number, item 5.
5.
Okay. So it used to be 55 and then went to 70, I was just wondering why.
Yes, the reason for that is we increased the size of the output. And when I looked at the different
Okay,
wind turbines you could get, that's where the height is coming up to.
okay.
So just keep that in mind, that would be permitted. Now, that's typically measured to the top of the blade.
Okay. No, I think it's good that it's big more. I was just wondering what your logic was to get it there. So that's what it was, because you're thinking it's possible that thing could be actually tall.
Yes.
Okay.
What's the distance between property line and the windmill?
The maximum height of the windmill.
Right, but what's, how far do I have to be from my from the
Number
property?
8, look at number 8.
Is it
Yeah, that's number 8.
1 and 1/10 total center height of the turbine.
Yeah, so you're just a little further into the property, so if it falls over, it falls short of your property line.
So that was another question. Why, it used to be 125%. Why is it now 110%? That number used to be 1.25, now it's 100.
I lowered it simply because the higher the tower got, the less likely it would fit on the property. So I lowered the distance to the property line to a minimum to allow people the greater opportunity to have it.
So the maximum is 77 feet.
Yes.
And if I had a shorter wind turbine, what's reasonable? What's a,
I don't know, I was going to ask you something.
Well, the other, it was, I think it was, originally, I think it was 50 foot, the tower. I think that was on
The old one,
the
yeah.
old one. So we raised it 20 feet. But rather than allowing it to be 1.25
Right.
away from the property, we dropped it to 1.10, which you have.
62.
Your property is only, in a lot of cases, is only so wide.
I don't know much about wind turbines, other energy, but well, I mean, what is a typical efficient turbine to be used? Like, I mean, how tall does it have to be?
Quite honestly, number one is, the higher it is, the more efficient it is. Number two is, I doubt that we'll see too many because there's no wind down here.
We don't really have
Do they have
enough
to put the
sustained
flashing
wind.
lights on them? Are they gonna do that?
No, no flashing lights around.
If they reach a certain height, but
You don't want any airplanes that come smashing into them. You
The
don't want-
problem that they have is they can't put the flashing lights at the top of the blade. The damn blades go up to 400 feet. 400 feet?
Oh, those big ones,
These
yeah.
are big ones.
Well, we don't have it.
We don't live in Oklahoma.
Yeah, we don't have
Well, I think Paul mentioned the idea too of that noise that it will probably drive you, even though there's a 55 decibel, what's it called?
It's a subsonic.
Yeah, well, it'll make it
noise.
insane.
You know, what can happen is that when it comes in contact with a closed house, like you may not hear if your windows are open, but if your windows are closed, you've kind of got a reverb chamber in your house. Yeah, so you can, because of this kind of noise, you can hear it better when you've got the house close up. And it's the kind of thing that drives them crazy.
It's unlikely we'll ever have any
No,
disturbance like
and
that.
they can go higher than, they go 600 feet. They go way high.
With that out there,
Yeah, but we don't have to
Yeah.
worry about that. We don't have
You just don't have the kind of wind sustained.
Yeah.
I have a lot of wind at my house.
It's not like they have on the ridge in front.
Yes, is it?
Or out towards sun.
For whatever reason, my road goes like this, I'm at the peak. And there's farmers, big farmer's field, but he's got trees on the side, so he kind of makes a funnel. And right up Conner Mill Road, and of course that's northwest, which is the most common prevailing wind. And when I put my trash cans out, they go flying down the street.
Maybe you need a wind turbine.
So Jeff, I have one more question on page
So if I can put
24.
that next to my driveway to
I
hide
give you the
trash
reference.
cans.
Yeah, on page 24. It's
he doesn't, he
at the
doesn't have
very end.
the second line.
Yeah, so it's the manure digester community. So I guess, I didn't see any kind of, what zone is it permitted in? So I don't know if this is the community was a subset of the all manure digester.
So it's in the AR district, right?
Yeah, but it doesn't say that.
It says ag zoning district, that's the AR.
So where does it say that, John? It doesn't say in.
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't, you're right.
Yeah, so, and also it states setbacks on the top, it doesn't say setbacks on the bottom. So you saw my comment, so maybe you could add that in there, I just saw that was missing.
Yeah, that can be incorporated without any problem.
Did we lose you guys? Did you have comments on the solar panels?
We wanted to see the map, but.
Oh, go look at it, yeah, don't,
Oh, go ahead, you can walk around.
all right, so.
There's a college up in one of the New England states, I don't know if it's New Hampshire or what, that I read, that just put in, or is putting in one of these manure digesters for their,
But it's a farm thing, right?
Sounds like a nice
well,
thing.
it's a college, I don't know,
Oh, the
it's
college
a
is doing it.
farm. And I don't know where they're getting the product, but.
Well, the community could be coming
Yeah,
from that, from
yeah.
wherever, right? So Jeff, would you just take our comments and then put, I don't know, you're on vacation or something, right? Do you have time to incorporate the comments or
maybe
wait till you come back, or, I don't know,
How long you going on vacation for?
for a long time?
I'll be back in November.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's a long vacation.
Yes.
Yeah, I would like the comments put in before the PC.
Who's gonna take the reins for you?
When is it?
Saturday.
Oh, you got some more. We got Thursday, Friday, not to worry.
Is Paul
So
getting it
who
yet?
from LTL is going to take, fill your shoes?
Paul later.
The same one you filled last year when he took his long vacation.
Yeah. But Jeff, there's, we'll talk about it, you won't have to teach Paul. I mean, these are minor things that.
Well, that's why I wanted to get it done before the
Yeah.
house.
And are we, is the PC having a meeting next week, next month?
Yeah,
Only
yeah,
if you send this to them. Do you hear?
I want the high-speed one.
And obviously that will be the third draft, so.
Yeah, but you know the PC.
But it's not like if I miss a couple of these things.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm not going anywhere, I'll still be there.
Taking the sun and create wind.
No, I think if you get the impervious surface done, and if you take care of the last thing we just talked about by the manure, just putting the setbacks in and stating what the zones are for the manure community one.
Right. One other thing while we're talking is, you made a comment about screening.
Yeah, we.
In section C, number 6.
You don't have a page number, right? It says it-
I'll get it to you in a second. Section C6 is page 7, I'm sorry, page 6, design installation of solar facilities.
Yes, because it's kind of, you see, it looks like it was incomplete. You see number 6, it just looks like, I don't know what's going on.
It is incomplete.
Yeah, so you need to fix
Simply
that.
because I put the screening and landscaping section in from the sound ordinance. But there was a request that the buffer and screening be heavier.
Right.
I would have to have some additional guidelines on that. I looked at what the sailor said.
That sounds like a good PC item. Let's let the
Okay.
PC come up with something.
Okay. I'm fine with that.
Yeah. So we've got a standard requirement in the saldo. That would be the minimum, and then if they want to put more in there.
So Jeff,
Well, if you take the SU district, typically there's supposed to be a 30-foot buffer and a minimum of a 10-foot width of screening. So that's supposed to be 70% opacity, and I forget the height in, I think 3 years of stuff, the plantings have to grow to that height. And in the winter time, it's allowed to be 50% opacity. That's what you're currently using if you would, like, just take 1620 New London Road, that's what should be there between a residence and a commercial establishment.
Well, it might turn out to be okay, the standard.
but we don't really say that. We don't say anything. So-
Well, it says it in the ordinance, and I just referred screening and landscaping to the Sally ordinance, which would describe all that.
Can't we
Was it
restate it?
22-6-10?
Yes.
If somebody has to go look for it, can't we just pull out what it is?
Well, it goes, this is for energy generating facility, and it would go to land development, and the planning commission and engineers would go all over that, so I don't have to spell it out in the ordinance.
Okay, I would
Yeah, I don't
prefer,
think you want to spell it out, you just want to refer to the ordinance.
so I'd rather have you spell it out and reference the ordinance. Well, I can do that in the PC too, as a reader, I want to know what it is, what am I signing up for? I don't want to do any extra work.
So after ordinance changes.
You're copying
Well, that's up
something,
to us, so let's fix it.
you're copying something that could change.
Right.
Well, then it should change here too.
If the ordinance changes 5 years from now, and then we have this in here that still is not consistent with the new ordinance.
All right, maybe we need a note somewhere, a piece of paper that says what this is, so we don't have to go look for it, as we have the conversations in the PC. So does this number 2 stay here, or can we get rid of that? Is that, I don't know what, so
That was part of the Sally ordinance, and it just snuck in when I was.
so, okay, so that's gonna go away. It's just confusing. I take everything very literally, okay? And then add the heavier buffer requires just something we requested, so that you just
Right.
left that
That was
there.
a note for myself.
Right,
So
okay.
we could discuss it.
All right, so we just need for the PC, just to explain what the 22.610 is, so we have it. So we know what we're gonna be talking about.
Right.
Okay.
Good. Okay.
Lynn, did you get your comments answered?
We're going to do a public comment, so everybody's got a chance to. We're in a
We lost the public.
We're in a public comment section now, so.
How's
Actually,
the
there
results
one-
in it?
I've got Paul's here.
One point. When we put a brake retarder sign on Appleton, put it sufficiently down Appleton so that somebody who's going too fast up Appleton has sufficient time to stop before they reach the stop sign and walk.
Yeah, you don't want to go
PennDOT
past.
tells you where to put it.
They'll tell us where to put them.
Some days I'd like to tell them.
Well, that's a lot of things, but they were pretty reasonable.
Yeah, but I mean, my concern is there's a lot of fast-moving traffic on Appleton that's not a very speed and,
But you have a good relationship.
in order
with them,
to,
right?
in order
You
to
just
do
have that
it
conversation.
so that, I mean, you want to do it so that they're not using it coming into the stop sign, because that's really where the village starts, so you want to avoid them before that stop sign. Sufficient.
I will express that for $10. They will come out and I'll walk it with them.
Okay. Then their wheels will turn.
They turn slowly, they turn.
Okay, anything else?
Public comment? All right, not hearing anymore. Let's see, the meeting is adjourned at 9:53.